A man dressed in regal attire, exuding an air of authority and refinement, stepped into the arena. His appearance was striking, as though he had walked straight out of a medieval tale. Standing at an imposing height of 190 centimeters, his muscular frame was evident even through the finely tailored garments he wore. Yet, what drew the audience's attention most were his eyes, cold and lifeless, devoid of emotion or warmth. The saying, "The eyes are the windows to the soul," seemed hauntingly fitting for this man. His gaze betrayed a profound emptiness, a chilling aura that suggested he was long dead inside. The spectators whispered among themselves, unnerved by his presence. Victor, observing the man keenly, let a small smile play on his lips. "Oh!" Scat-Hack, standing beside him, mirrored his smile with a satisfied one of her own. "You noticed, didn't you?" she said. "Yes." At first glance, he might appear to be a man consumed by boredom, someone drained of life. But that assumption couldn't be further from the truth. Victor's eyes gleamed with intrigue, a subtle reflection caught on the glasses perched on his nose. Scat-Hack chuckled, a rich, amused sound. "Ha! Foxes like you always see through the facade. Deception is in their nature. That man? He's a fox. Is he strong?" Violet asked cautiously, her gaze fixed on the mysterious figure. Scat-Hack's grin widened. "Oh, he's strong. But the question isn't whether he's strong, it's how strong." Violet furrowed her brow, scrutinizing the man. "I feel like my mother is stronger than him." Scat-Hack burst into laughter, her voice echoing in the arena. "Ha ha ha ha!" Violet's face remained emotionless as she watched the older vampire's outburst. "Girl," Scat-Hack said after catching her breath, "a woman who relies solely on her powers doesn't deserve to be called strong. Do you know why?" She flashed her teeth in a predatory grin. Violet waited silently for her explanation. "Because when her power is taken from her, she's nothing." Scat-Hack's tone turned cold and instructive. Violet opened her mouth to respond, but faltered. Deep down, she knew Scat-Hack was right. Her mother had mastered her abilities, but neglected other disciplines. Without her powers, she would be defenseless, a reality Violet couldn't deny. Scat-Hack's voice shifted into that of a seasoned teacher. A true hunter must always have an arsenal of weapons at their disposal. They must know multiple ways to defeat an enemy stronger than themselves. If your innate vampire powers fail, rely on martial arts and close combat. If martial arts fail, grab a weapon. No weapon? Use a stone. Adapt. Use the environment to your advantage. That's what it means to be a hunter. That's what I taught Victor. Violet nodded, her expression serious. "I understand." She made a mental note to ask Victor for lessons in the future. Ruby, Lakis, Sienna, and Eleanor exchanged glances, absorbing Scat-Hack's words. As her former students, they couldn't help but wonder, why didn't she teach us this too? Their gazes shifted to Victor, silently questioning him. Noticing their stares, Victor, who had been fixated on the man at the center of the arena, spoke without turning. "Let's focus on the match." Elizabeth's voice broke through their concentration. "Before that, give me my sister." Victor turned to see Elizabeth standing behind him, her expression firm. "I'm not holding her here. Take her if you want." Victor released Ophis from his embrace, spreading his arms wide. Elizabeth approached cautiously, slipping on a pair of black gloves inscribed with glowing magical symbols. Victor observed the gloves with mild curiosity. "Protection?" Elizabeth nodded. "Yes." She reached for Ophis, who had been quietly clinging to Victor. The moment Elizabeth touched her sister's arm, Ophis opened her crimson eyes, which blazed with an unsettling light. She tightened her grip on Victor's clothes, glaring at her sister. Elizabeth froze momentarily under Ophis's fierce gaze, but managed to maintain her composure. "Ophis, we need to go back." "No," Ophis said firmly, her voice surprisingly commanding for her small frame. Elizabeth sighed in frustration but stepped back, resigning herself to her sister's will. She took a seat next to Eleanor. "Let her stay," Victor said, stroking Ophis's hair as she relaxed against him. As the group turned their attention back to the arena, a shimmering dome encased the space, signaling the start of the duel. A golden scroll materialized in the air, listing the terms of the match. Niklaus Horseman, the imposing man in the arena, exchanged curt words with Victoria, his opponent. Their verbal sparring was sharp and calculated, each word layered with veiled threats and challenges. The match was set. One round, a fight to submission or the destruction of the heart. Victoria's confident facade cracked slightly when Niklaus suggested involving her son in the duel. He knew her secret, her son's heritage, and leveraged it against her. Cornered, Victoria had no choice but to agree, her mind racing with strategies to protect her son's identity. As the terms were finalized and the arena prepared for the clash, the tension in the air was palpable. Both sides carried secrets and stakes far greater than the audience could comprehend. The match promised to be a spectacle, a battle not just of strength but of wits and resolve. After the intense events in the arena, the two clan leaders retreated to their respective VIP rooms. Inside a room strikingly similar to Victor's, three figures sat in tense silence. A blonde woman, Victoria, clad in a long, elegant black dress, lounged on a sofa. Beside her was another woman, dressed in a modern purple gown accented with white. Despite her refined appearance, her demeanor was sharper, more contemporary than Victoria's. Tatsuya, I'm counting on you. Remember, no lightning. You can win with just your father's talent. I believe in you. Take care, my son, Victoria said, her voice warm but firm. Her gaze softened as it landed on her son, a tall man standing at 185 centimeters, his long, dark blonde hair framing a pale face with deep black eyes. He was dressed in a black yukata embroidered with golden accents. Yes, mother, Tatsuya replied with a gentle smile. He turned and strode toward the exit, his steps echoing softly as he made his way to the arena. The moment the door closed behind him, Victoria's expression hardened. She turned to the woman beside her, her voice cold and sharp. How? How could they know about Tatsuya? I'm paying you billions to ensure this doesn't happen. Believe me, Victoria, I don't know, the woman replied with a weary sigh. Victoria's blood-red eyes glinted dangerously. Even for a witch of your caliber, you don't know. The woman, Hecate, met Victoria's gaze with a resigned expression. No, I don't. But I have a theory. Speak. One of that woman's daughters has clairvoyant abilities. Perhaps your son appeared at an important future event, and she saw it. But that doesn't explain how the Horseman clan learned of him. Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line. Hecate, I'm paying you to protect my son and ensure his existence remains hidden. From the moment that old man discovered him, you failed. Your pay will be reduced. What? Hecate's eyes widened in alarm, her composed facade cracking. This doesn't break our contract. His existence hasn't been revealed to everyone. Victoria ignored her protests. If you don't want to lose more, find out how this happened. Yes, I will, Hecate muttered, her voice tinged with frustration. Losing Victoria as a client would be a witch's nightmare, and she knew it. Meanwhile, in another VIP room, the atmosphere was equally tense. Ina Horseman, a tall man with a perpetually mischievous grin, lounged on a couch. So, will it be my older brother, me, or maybe my little sister? Einar asked, his voice laced with mockery. Niklaus, standing by the window overlooking the arena, didn't bother turning around. Your older brother cannot fight, and I won't entrust this matter to my daughter. You will fight. Einar's grin widened. Oh, thank you, Father Da. Niklaus's tone turned cold. This is your last chance. Don't fail me as you did with the Alpha Wolf. This time, your opponent is someone of your level and won't be using his full power. You have no excuses if you lose. Einar's grin faltered for a split second before he nodded, his tone shifting to seriousness. I won't fail. Good. Go. Einar rose and left, his confidence masking the weight of his father's disappointment. How is the boy's condition? Niklaus asked after Einar's departure. Deteriorating. He doesn't have much time, Zvi replied neutrally. Niklaus frowned. That's a problem. Hybrids are difficult to create. We can't lose him before we meet our goal. What about those individuals my brothers captured? Jessica, Niklaus's daughter, interjected. Karen is watching them, Niklaus replied dismissively. Jessica scowled. I don't trust Karen. She's unreliable. Niklaus turned his bored gaze to his daughter. It doesn't matter if you trust her. She's doing her job. If she becomes useless, she'll be eliminated. Jessica's retort died in her throat. She knew better than to argue with her father. In the arena, a man wearing a red and black suit stepped into the center. A smiling mask obscured his face as he raised his hands, his voice resonating across the space. Ladies and gentlemen, the two clans have decided on the rules of today's game. He gestured upward, and a massive hologram materialized, displaying the details. Chosen game, 1v1 duel. Rounds 1. Rules: destroy the opponent's heart or force them to surrender. Time limit: none. Clan Horseman bet: Vampire count title. Clan Rider bet: the Rider conglomerate. Start time: 10 minutes. The crowd erupted in cheers and animated debates, their excitement filling the arena. Victor, watching from his VIP room, clicked his tongue in annoyance. Tisk. Ophis looked up at him. Father? Victor smiled gently, stroking her hair. It's nothing, Ophis. She murmured, closing her eyes with a contented smile. Scat chuckled. Be patient, Victor. These things take time. Victor remained silent, his eyes fixed on the arena. My aunt seemed annoyed for a moment, Sasha observed. Oh, did you notice? Ruby asked. Yes, Sasha nodded. For a brief second, her emotions spiked. That man must have provoked her, Elizabeth interjected. Victor glanced at Elizabeth. You seem to know him, Princess. Elizabeth smiled faintly. Nothing escapes the king's eyes. Scat burst into laughter. Huh? Except me, of course. Elizabeth's expression turned neutral. Nothing escapes the king's eyes, except Countess Scat. Glad you understand, Scat said smugly. Elizabeth turned away, exhaling in frustration. She glanced at her guards, still immobilized by ice. Can you release them? Scat waved her hand, shattering the icy restraints. The guards bowed in thanks before taking their posts by the door. Elizabeth sighed. Why am I still here? Eleanor leaned closer. Rough time, Princess? Elizabeth nodded curtly. Don't worry. We all feel the same way, Eleanor said with a sympathetic smile. Sienna chimed in, her tone dry. You'll get used to it. And look on the bright side. Now we have 2 Scat. Elizabeth groaned inwardly. Bloody hell, I need to leave.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
When the audience saw that they were 2 children, their reaction was mixed. Tisk, 2 kids. Some didn't like it. It's better than nothing. Some just didn't care anymore. They're cute. Some thought they were both attractive. Boring. Some lost interest. I wanted to see the 2 leaders fight. Some were honest with their thoughts. Despite having different reactions, there was something they all had in common. They were bored, but there wasn't much better to do, so they were going to watch anyway. So it's him, Tatsia. Victor's smile grew when he finally got to know the name of the person who had a strong presence. He had seen a strong presence some time ago, near the VIP room where he was, and he finally got to know who this individual was. An Einer Horseman. Victor's eyes lit up a little when he saw the name Horseman. So he's the heir, huh? He thought with an indecipherable little smile. Do you want me to investigate it, Master? Victor suddenly heard Kagaya's voice in his head. He stroked Ophis' head and thought for a moment. No need. The reason he refused was simple. He didn't want to put Kagaya at risk. When Victor looked at the leader of Clan Horsemen, he could tell what kind of person he was. And with Scat words a few minutes ago, he knew that man was someone careful. Despite having a convenient power that can help her escape from any situation, Victor doesn't want to risk putting his favorite mate in danger. Okay, Master, but if you need anything, talk to me. I'm feeling useless just being in your shadow. Haha, I'll talk to you if I need anything, he replied in a low voice. Ophis looks up and stares at Victor. Shadow. Victor displays a gentle smile and puts his finger to his mouth in a gesture of silence. Soon she lays her head on his chest. She hid his last name, Scat exhibited a small smile. He looks familiar somehow, Sasha spoke as she stared at the image. Violet didn't care about the contestants. She was just staring at Ophis with a death glare. Despite ignoring it for a few minutes, she still felt jealous and envious of the little girl. And Violet was thinking of doing something. n/o/vel/b/gen.c//om. Stop, Ruby spoke. But I haven't done anything yet. Violet looked at Ruby in disbelief. Yes, you haven't done anything yet. Ruby looked at Violet with a look that completely understood Violet's actions. Violet was wondering when she became so predictable. Sigh. Ruby sighed. Don't do anything now, okay? I'm also jealous, and I also want to do something about it. But despite my feelings about this situation, this little girl is still the king's daughter. So though my mother wouldn't mind it, and our husband wouldn't either, we must not get into conflict with the king. Tisk. Violet turned her face away. Ladies and gentlemen, hearing the announcer's voice, the girls looked towards the arena, where they saw two men walking towards the arena. A man with long golden hair was walking calmly towards the middle of the arena. He was wearing a black yukata with black details, and he also had a small katana around his waist. The feeling he gave was that of a sharp but gentle warrior. A very opposite feeling from the other competitor. He was wearing a black sweatshirt and black jeans. The man had a big, distorted smile on his face, and his crazed eyes gave away what kind of personality he seemed to have. Upon reaching the middle of the arena, the two fighters faced each other. Despite being opposites in personality, the audience didn't have a favorite fighter. They didn't care for the gentle-looking fighter, and they also didn't care for the crazy appearance of the other fighter. Instead, they just wanted to see something interesting. The announcer knew that, and because of that, he didn't speak more than necessary. He approached the participants and spoke out loud so that everyone could hear. Everyone present here knows the rule, but I will repeat it. Permanent death is not allowed. If any of the fighters break this rule, severe consequences will happen to the clan the fighter is representing. The masked referee looked at the two. Did I make myself clear? They both felt a shiver down their spine as they looked through the small space of the masked man's mask. Yes, the two replied. Good. Let the game begin. The referee disappeared. The moment they heard the referee's words, the two participants seemed to disappear from view, and soon they appeared in the middle of the arena. Tatsuya was holding his katana, and Einar was holding a completely black rapier. The two swords collided in the middle of the arena. Tatsuya looked at the rapier with appraising eyes. He wondered when this weapon appeared in the man's hand. He knew his opponent didn't enter the arena with this weapon in hand, but he didn't have much time to think when he felt something trying to pierce his back. Realizing the danger, Tatsuya decided to flee from this situation. Calm down, don't run away. Tatsuya looked down and saw that his feet were trapped in the ground by some kind of black slime. Tatsuya's body started to crackle with lightning for a few seconds, but soon stopped. Instinctively, Tatsuya would use his lightning bolts, but remembering his mother's words, he managed to control himself. With no choices, he decided to do whatever was necessary not to lose the game from the start. So he uses a parry technique and deflects Einar's blade. In doing so, he managed to knock the blade away from Einar. Realizing his chance, he makes a decision and cuts off his legs. With his body falling towards the ground, Tatsuya supports himself with his hand and moves away. He looked at the place where he was and saw a kind of black thorn piercing the air. What is that? With a calm face, he tried to understand the enemy's power. I wonder if the public knows what's going on. Scat laughed in amusement. Suddenly, everyone could feel a sensation that made the spines of their bodies shiver, and everyone in the VIP room looked at Victor. As expected, you didn't disappoint me again. Scat smile grew. Victor's hair seemed to be floating like it was defying gravity. His eyes were glowing a dangerous red, and he had a huge smile that showed all the sharp teeth in his mouth. Father, Ophis called him, but Victor seemed to be in a trance, and he didn't hear her. Ophis looked at Victor, her big eyes shining cutely. She didn't understand why Victor didn't talk to her. That feeling is scary. Pepper muttered a little. Did he get like this just seeing those two fight? Everyone in the room except Violet, Ruby, Sasha, Scathack, and Ophis, who were more concerned about looking at Victor, agreed with Pepper. Seeing the face, she considered an excited face of her disciple. Scathack started to think of a few things. She looked back to the arena. Are you going to attack me? Just because I'm in this condition, are you underestimating me? Tatsuya asked in a cold voice. I don't need to move to attack you. Suddenly, a black thorn pierces Tatsuya's heart. Tatsuya, my son, why didn't you finish the fight? Victoria didn't seem worried about her son. In fact, she looked impatient. TSK? This is boring. Someone in the audience complained. As a 450-year-old vampire, this kind of fight wasn't surprising to him. That same feeling was shared by the other vampires who were similar in age to that man and were watching the fight. For them, it was just a child's fight. Do you have fun when you see two kids fighting? Of course not. What are you waiting for, boy? Finish the opponent and end this farce soon. A man from the audience shouted towards Einar. Einar seemed to be singing a song and totally ignored the man in the audience. Then his red eyes started to glow. I feel weird. Einar started to think of a few things, and soon he made a move that left everyone speechless. He takes the rapier he created and pierces his own heart. An uncomfortable silence descended on the arena. Nobody understood what happened. Silence remains for 30 seconds. Then everyone hears the sound of breaking glass. The sky is cracking. Someone spoke in disbelief. The sky suddenly broke, and soon everyone woke up in a stupor. Vampires under 500 years of age looked at the arena in shock. Huh? Are you both okay? What happened? The audience was freaking out. An older vampire in the audience said, Children these days are too weak to fall for this simple trick. He shook his head in disappointment. Unexpected. I thought this would be easy. Tatsuya spoke in a cold voice. He was still standing in the same spot the game had started and was about to finish the fight when he realized that Einar had fallen into his power, but his instincts warned him not to get closer now. Einar's smile grew disproportionately. I see. We didn't know about this power. What? What just happened? Violet rubbed her eyes. This power is dangerous. I didn't even feel like I was in an illusion. Sasha spoke in a serious voice. She felt uncomfortable as she imagined she could be in an illusion at any time. Illusion? Violet looked at Sasha. Yes, I don't know how it works, but that is the power he just used, right? Since she wasn't sure what she was talking about, she looked to Scathack for answers. Sasha was internally surprised. Is his power so strong that it could affect several young vampires present in the arena simultaneously? Seeing what Sasha was doing, Violet also looked at Scathack. Sensing Sasha and Violet's gaze, Scathack looked at them and flashed a small, unreadable smile. You're correct that his power is an illusion, but that's not all. Then she looked back at the arena. Sasha and Violet nodded. They understood why the woman spoke so mysteriously. She was basically saying, use your brains. The problem is right in front of you. That power. When was it activated? I don't remember looking him in the eye. Ruby commented. Indeed, he doesn't have an emo attitude either. Pepper, who got up and approached Ruby, added, n/o/vel/b/n.c//n.c//om. Violet and Sasha looked at their sisters. What are you talking about? Violet asked as she raised her eyebrow. Nothing. The two spoke at the same time. Tatsuya looked at Einar with a cold look on his face. Tell me, do you think your reality that you see is really real? Then, his eyes changing to blood red, he started walking towards Einar. I don't know, and I don't care either. Einar looked to his right side and ignored what Tatsuya was saying. I see. Tatsuya's image disappeared from the arena. If the act of observing reality is what determines what is real, then Tatsuya appears beside Einar and attacks him. Black thorns suddenly grow from the ground and cross Tatsuya, and Tatsuya's blood splashed in Einar's face. For just a small moment, Einar's face displayed a tiny bit of pleasure. He thought he had it right this time, but soon a strange sensation like the one he'd felt the first time hit him. What am I to you? A reality? Or an illusion? The image of Tatsuya being pierced by the black thorns disappears like a mirage, and a katana blade appears behind Einar and cuts him vertically. Fuck dash, Einar tries to dodge the attack, but he can barely manage. He had to sacrifice his arm. His arm fell to the ground, and he felt the pain. He backed away quickly and looked at his arm, and again he felt that nagging feeling in his heart. This isn't real. The moment he identified what was real, his arm disappeared from the ground and returned to his body. If you can't understand me, you can't fight me since you can't fight what you don't understand. A katana suddenly pierces Einar's chest. Cough! Einar coughed up blood on the floor. This time, he felt that this wound was real. He creates black thorns behind him and attacks Tatsuya. Tell me, the wound you just received, does it exist? Tisk. Hearing Tatsuya's voice, Einar's face for the first time showed an annoyed expression. Fuck off! Several thorns appear around Einar. Where are you? Show yourself. The audience was silent. They couldn't understand what was happening right in front of them. But, of course, this only applied to the younger vampires. The older vampires knew what was going on, and the only thing that crossed the mind of the older vampires was, where did the leader of Clan Rider find this man with such exotic power? The eyes of the older vampires looked at Tatsuya with a look of limitless curiosity. For them, who were bored, Tatsuya was a perfect existence to kill their boredom. Ha! That kid must be having a hard time right now. Scat Hack chuckled. She looked at Victor, who seemed to have all of his senses focused on the fight. Do you seem to understand what's going on, Victor? She exhibited a small smile. Hearing Scat Hack's question, everyone looked at Victor. Yeah, look, Tatsuya is going to cut his legs off now. And just like Victor said, Tatsuya's katana appears on Einar's legs and cuts diagonally. Einar was going through a difficult time. He understood what was going on, but despite understanding the enemy's power, he couldn't do anything to counteract that power. It's useless. He heard Tatsuya's voice again. As long as you don't understand my existence, you can't fight me. The katana appears again in front of Einar and tries to cut off his head. Einar quickly creates a thorn shield in front of him and jumps back using his hands. When Tatsuya's katana touches the thorn shield, the katana disappears like mist. Victor's group was surprised again. This is a tough fight for me. Eleanor was honest. She was primarily a fighter who used strength to overcome everything. Indeed, this man is like an eel. He is very slippery, and that power is irritating to fight back against. Elizabeth spoke. How do you fight someone who can confuse all your senses? He has the advantage. Lakis spoke. You are thinking wrong? Victor and Scat Hack's voices were heard at the same time. The group was silent again. For the first time, Victor stops watching the fight and looks at Scat Hack. Then he exhibits a small smile. Do you explain, or do I explain? She smiled. You explain? She wanted to know Victor's thoughts. Victor gets up with Ophis in his arms and says something in Ophis' ear. The girl nodded in agreement. He decided to demonstrate. After all, is better than explaining. Watch. He places his hand in front of Ophis and descends slowly. The group started to watch the movement of Victor's hands. Victor's hands began to glow with the power of lightning, and it caught the girl's attention even more. He looked like he was going to do something big. Suddenly he said, Now where is Ophis? The women looked up and saw that Ophis had disappeared. She disappeared. Elizabeth screamed and got up from her chair. She couldn't lose her sister again. Ruby, Sasha, and Violet look around, and soon they see Ophis sitting on Victor's ice throne, but since the throne was so big, it looked like she had disappeared. She's on the throne? The three spoke. Elizabeth walks close to the throne and sighs with relief when she sees Ophis sitting in a cute fashion. What I just did is simple. I focused your attention on my hands, and you didn't see Ophis come down from my arms, a simple attention-shifting trick. That's basically what he's doing to deceive Einar. Of course, he's not using this simple magic trick. He must be using his power to make it work on a large scale. Ah, good. You get it. But you missed something, idiot disciple. Oh. Victor and the group looked at Scat Hack. That man, he is not trying to deceive the boy of Clan Horseman. He is deceiving his very existence. She exhibited a teacher smile. By becoming a difficult creature to be observed, the brain cannot understand what it is observing. So it looks like he is using a form of illusion. He said it right? You can't fight what you don't understand. That's basically a tip he left. I see. Victor's smile grew a little. Father. Ophis raised her hand up in a gesture that told Victor to hold her. What a spoiled girl, da. Victor smiled kindly and picked up Ophis again, then sat on the ice throne he created. Better. Elizabeth didn't know what to say or think seeing her sister like this. Crack. Violet's grip was so strong that she broke the ice throne she was sitting on a little. In an attempt to ignore what she was seeing, she said, he is hiding his very existence, and by doing so, he manages to fool his opponent. Her brain was spinning to try to understand what she just heard. That doesn't make any sense, Ruby said. His power is quite unusual in our community. I think he must be a foreign vampire. Sienna commented. As an older vampire, she could understand the battle and the power of man, but even for her his power was something interesting and curious. The power of the vampires out there shouldn't be that strong. Elizabeth continued. His power is not strong. Eleanor explained. It's the way he uses his power that makes it look like his power is strong. Suddenly everyone could feel a dark pressure. They quickly look into the arena and see Einar's body covered in a distorted black aura. Annoying? Annoying. Your power is irritating. Your existence is irritating. He had a distorted expression on his face and seemed very upset. I don't need to understand you to defeat you. A pillar of black energy came out of Einar's body. Slowly, Einar's skin began to change to a dark black. He started to grow in height. His ears grew, and black wings made of pure power grew up behind him. His hair lifted as if defying gravity. His eyes took on a deeper shade of red. His teeth sharpened. That's... Victor's smile grew distorted, and everyone could see the big smile Victor had on his face. The vampire count form. This power... The audience was speechless, especially the younger vampires. How did he achieve this form despite being so young? It's impossible. Some were unbelievers. Oh, that's what I wanted to see. Now it's interesting. The most bored vampires didn't care. They just wanted to have fun. Hey, blonde boy, show me something interesting too. The two fighters ignored the voices of vampires from the audience and focused their attention on each other. Father, Zvi spoke in a neutral voice, but one that held a sense of warning. I know. It's all right. It's not like it's rare for the sons of vampire counts to take that form. Niklaus didn't look worried. Jessica looked intently at the arena. Although this was a power she still hadn't quite grasped, she hoped that by watching her brother do it, she might understand something. Lady Victoria, Hecate looked worried. It's okay. My son can win, but... After seeing the form her son's opponent took, she thought, these damn geniuses. How old is he? Only 105? And even though he's so young, can he take that form? She was really starting to get worried about her son. Even though her son is a full-fledged genius, he hasn't released this transformation yet. She knows it's foolish to just let him fight without using all of his powers. But despite knowing this, she's still a mother. She wants the best for her son and doesn't want to involve her son in Clan Folger's schemes. Hecate, if things get bad, send him a message telling him to use all his powers. What about the Folger clan? I'll deal with those bastards later, but first, we must win this game. But despite being a mother who wants the best for her child, she was an ambitious woman, a contradiction of ambition, desire, and a mother's affection. I see. I will get the message across if something happens. Crack, crack. Sounds of breaking glass can be heard. It felt like reality was breaking. This reality will decay in the face of my power. He raised his hands, and his power seemed to cover all the space around him. The moment he raised his hand, the world around him began to rot, and slowly, the illusion disappeared and showed Tatsuya, who had a surprised expression on his cold face. Einar broke Tatsuya's power with sheer brute force. And to think you surpass my power with pure strength. And there's also this transformation. Do you call it vampire count form? Are you scared now? Don't be. We just started. Einar's smile grew. Wrong. I'm not scared. I just realized that I still have a lot to improve. That's a good thing. Tatsuya braced himself. I see. Einar didn't care. Einar's wings of power seemed to grow, and as soon as he rose into the air, he spread his wings. Black thorns began to grow inside the wings, and soon a shower of thorns flew towards Tatsuya. Using a foot movement that would be the envy of any martial artist, Tatsuya dodged all the thorns. He seemed to be dancing in the middle of the arena and avoided all attacks with as little effort as possible. The thorns hitting the arena seemed to be causing a decaying effect, and the ground was becoming unstable. But for Tatsuya, it wasn't a bother. He just realized that he shouldn't let those thorns touch his katana. His footwork is awesome. I want this technique. Scat Hack and Victor's eyes sparkled with curiosity. As two beings who were always wanting to get stronger, seeing a new technique was something that made them very interested. Scat Hack, does this look like a Japanese martial art? But it seems that whoever invented this martial art adapted it for use by vampires. As a 2,000-year-old vampire, she could already understand the technique with just a glance. And it took less than 10 seconds for her to understand that this technique was useless for her. After all, she had something like that, and the technique Tatsuya used was created specifically for katana users. But she thought it didn't hurt to learn, and because of that, she just watched the boy fight. By doing that, she could learn faster since, as a master of all martial arts, it was something simple for her to do. Interesting. It's very similar to the technique I use, but it's more refined. Lakis was interested in the match now. The vampire count form and Tatsuya's footwork caught her attention. Sasha had the same feeling as Lakis, but she didn't want the speed. She wanted that calm that man has. Even being in danger, his emotions were never altered. She wanted that, and this thought was shared by Violet. She knows that one of her weaknesses is that she loses control of her emotions too easily. Tisk, seeing that he wasn't making any progress, Einar decided to change his strategy. Cocoon, he whispered in a low voice. Soon several black thorns came out from under the arena and formed a black cocoon. Hey, I can't see the fight that way. The audience complained. Yes, do something. It was just starting to get interesting. You motherfucker. Do not worry. The referee acted quickly, then used a magical observation device. And soon their fight could be seen through the giant hologram that was floating above the arena. Using the cocoon as a means of using his powers, Einar was throwing several thorns at Tatsuya, a simple overpowering tactic. This is getting complicated, Tatsuya whispered while dodging the black thorns. Then, realizing he was getting cornered with each passing minute, I don't have any choice. He decided to do something. His eyes began to glow blood red, and golden energy began to shine in his katana. I'm sorry, mother. I will be rebellious today. He suddenly stopped moving and assumed an Ayajetsu stance. I got you, Einar yelled excitedly. He was finally going to kill this slippery eel. He completely forgot that he shouldn't kill opponents. Ryujin, Tatsuya whispered in a low voice as a colossal pressure started to come out of his body, and that pressure crushed all the black thorns. He drew the katana from its scabbard, and everyone could see only the wake of the katana attacking the air. Hakai no Sora, Ruawayer, the image of an oriental dragon with blue eyes and golden scales that appeared to be covered in lightning, seemed to come out of Tatsuya's sword, and it flew towards Einar. What? Einar quickly fled from Tatsuya's attack. He was not foolish enough to try to defend against that attack. The dragon destroyed the cocoon easily and continued to fly towards the dark skies of Nightingale. That is... Sasha rose from her throne and looked at the dragon in shock. He has the power of my clan? A moment of silence descended throughout the arena. Oh, this time everyone was impressed. That was amazing, blonde boy. Incredible. Do it again. The audience looked like excited children now. Tatsuya, maybe it's better this way. Hecate spoke to Victoria. That's not what I'm surprised at. Oh, he disobeyed you, huh? Yes, he was always an obedient boy. Victoria wasn't angry. She was just surprised that Tatsuya disobeyed her. Einar continued watching the dragon until it disappeared completely. Then he looked at Tatsuya, his eyes glowing for a few seconds. After that, he descended from the heavens, took his transformation off, and created a rapier with his powers. He positions rapier in front of him and takes a fighting stance. Oh, Tatsuya was curious. I'm just wasting energy uselessly. You're too fast and my powers won't hit you. He looked completely different. Even his voice became more serious. This is the most efficient tactic. He understood that he couldn't overcome Tatsuya with raw power, and he also could only assume that form for a few minutes before he was completely exhausted. He didn't want to risk losing because of that. I wonder if this is a good idea. How are you going to hit me if you don't understand me? Tatsuya exhibited a small smile. You're wrong. Einer disappeared and moved in front of Tatsuya. Soon the two blades collide in the middle of the arena. Tatsuya tried to use his powers to deceive the opponent, created a mirage of himself, then backed off. But he was surprised when Einer ignored his mirage and ran towards him. Again, the two blades collide. Now I understand you. He displayed a small neutral smile. Tatsuya exhibited a slight smile. I wonder about that. Soon the two collide again and begin to fight. Crack, crack. Broken ice sounds can be heard. Everyone looks at Victor and sees him squeezing the armrest of the ice throne as if holding on to keep from jumping into the arena and fighting. A frightening pressure began to leave Victor's body, and his smile only grew and grew. But this time, the pressure felt more terrifying, and it seemed to be affecting everything around. Some places in the room seemed to be hot like the desert. Some places seemed to be cold like the North Pole. Some places in the room were making small sounds of electricity crackling. Eleanor, Sienna, Lakis, and Pepper quickly left the part that was too hot and went to the part that was cold. n/o/vel/b/jen.c//om. Scathack flashed a small smile. She completely understood how Victor was feeling. Be Victor? Stop dash. Hi. Pepper tried to talk to Victor, but she couldn't. She quickly fled behind her sister. She knew the place near Victor's wives was the safest. Monster. Eleanor and Elizabeth spoke at the same time when they realized that this was being caused by Victor. Elizabeth was the most shocked. That man has the powers of the 3 strongest clans? What in the 7 hells is going on? She felt that she needed to find out what was going on. As a princess, she started to think that the 3 clans came together and decided to create a monster, and the result of that is Victor. Victor let the air out of his lungs. The air seemed to be very hot, and while keeping his smile. Ha 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 ha. He started laughing madly. An opponent, a strong opponent, was in front of me. I want to fight. Fuck these policies, fuck everything. I want to fight. And I know someone who can give me that opportunity. Someone who doesn't care about the consequences of breaking the game of 2 large families. Finally, Victor couldn't hold back his desire any longer. Scathack Scarlet. Victor's voice resonated throughout the VIP room. The princess guards and the princess herself were surprised as Victor called Scathack. They were hoping that woman would get angry. I know. I knew this would happen, so I prepared everything. Wait for me here. She smiled as she rose from her ice throne. She didn't do anything? What the fuck? They were freaking out. Sigh. As she walked towards the exit of the VIP room, she sighed. What don't I do for my stupid disciples? She looked pretty tired. That's what it looked like if you ignored the big smile on her face. She seemed to be enjoying the whole situation. The guards, realizing that that monster was walking towards them, quickly backed away from the door. Luna, Scathack spoke up. Yes. Come with me? Yes. What just happened? Do they have some kind of telepathy? Elizabeth asked honestly as Scathack left the VIP room. Probably, Lakis replied. Knowing my mother, she must be planning something. Sienna continued, visibly upset. Violet, Ruby, and Sasha were pouting annoyed. They didn't like it. It seems Scathack understood Victor more than they did. The one most affected by it was Violet. She was about to freak out. I wasn't supposed to let Scathack train my darling. I should have asked for war. Her thoughts were running wild. Sensing the turbulent emotions of his wives, Victor's desire to battle calmed a little, and he said, Calm down, girls. I am fine, and don't think about nonsense. Ruby, Violet, and Sasha looked at Victor. My wish is simple. Victor's eyes sparkled intensely. I want to fight. For 6 months, I was beaten by my master, and she said I got better. I want to know? I need to know how much better I got. Fighting my master isn't enough. She's just too strong. Oh. The three spoke at the same time. Two possible strong opponents are in front of me. How can I not get excited? How can I contain my desire? It's impossible. I've always been honest with myself, and now that I'm a vampire, that urge has gotten stronger. Now that I'm a vampire, huh? Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. She understood what that phrase implied. I see. Ruby nodded. She finally understood Victor's thoughts. Wait, isn't that the same thought process as my mother? Violet puts her finger on her face. Darling, just wants to have fun. Do you want to fight them now? What about the game? Sasha asked curiously. It's not possible that he wants to fight the two of them now, right? Probably he was talking about fighting them later, though Sasha thought that was very unlikely. I don't know, and I don't care. Victor was honest. He would only care about something if it was related to his wives, and he knows this game has nothing to do with Sasha. That woman may be Sasha's aunt, but she's something of a distant aunt or an aunt that Sasha doesn't have much contact with. Soon he looked back at the arena and saw a referee in the middle of the arena. It looked like something had happened, and he hadn't noticed. I will entrust this matter to Scathack. My master must be planning something, and I know it won't negatively affect me. Victor spoke honestly. He knows that Scathack would only throw him to the lions in an attempt to make him stronger, and he didn't mind that attitude. In fact, he actually liked it. Everyone was silent and surprised at how much confidence Victor had in his master. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize, but this game will be stalled for a few minutes. The referee suddenly spoke. The audience felt like a child who had just had their favorite candy stolen. Hey, someone from the audience there complained, but the referee just looked at that individual and said, "Be patient." His cold voice sent shivers down the vampire's spine. Okay. He sat back. Huh? Why was the game stopped? Victoria didn't know what was going on. Knock, knock. Lady Victoria Ryder, please come to the administration room. Victoria heard the voice of the arena worker. Victoria looked at the door. What's going on? A new clan has joined the wager. The official spoke. Huh? But isn't that against the rules? We know that, but we can't ignore the person who placed the order. It's just impossible. Feeling a little fear in the employee's voice, Victoria was curious. Can I at least know who the clan is that got involved? Clan Scarlet. Huh? Countess Scathack Scarlet? Victoria swallowed her saliva. What did that monster want with her? She was just a helpless woman. Yes. Fuck. A somewhat similar scene was taking place on the side of Clan Horsemen. Knock, knock. Come in. Niklaus' cold voice was heard by the clerk. The employee enters and immediately starts talking. Count Niklaus Horseman, a new clan, has decided to play the game. Please head to the administration room. Niklaus nodded coldly. He knew this was against the rules, so his curiosity was piqued. May I know who the new bettor is? He asked as he walked towards the exit of the VIP room. Countess Scathack Scarlet. He suddenly stopped walking. A small hint of surprise appeared on his face, but it soon disappeared as if it didn't exist. Okay. Wait here. Yes, father. Jessica spoke up. Zwei nodded. Victoria and Niklaus meet at the door to the administration room. The two looked at each other in silence for some time. Oldest first, Niklaus spoke with a knightly gesture. Oh! A vein popped in Victoria's head. She flashed a neutral smile and said, Why don't you go first? After all, you are someone of high status. That's true. He nodded, then opened the door. When Niklaus opened the door, they saw a woman with long red hair standing next to an old man. They seemed to be chatting amiably. Oh! Scathack's smile grew. You arrived good. Come in, come in. The two were wondering if they could refuse this offer, but remembering what was at stake, they entered. They sat on opposite sides, and as they sat down, they heard Scathack's voice. I don't want to waste a lot of time with useless conversations. So my proposal is simple. I want my disciple to fight your two heirs. My bet is simple. Whoever defeats my disciple, I will support 100% of whatever goal you have. Victoria and Niklaus' eyes seemed to glow. With the same smile on her face, Scathack continued. Do you want to take the king's throne? I will support it. Do you want me to teach your children? I will do it. Do you want to destroy the human world? That is a simple job. Do you want a war against the wolves? I would love to participate. The period of my support is 1 year. She flashed a cold smile. How about? It's a good deal, right? Yes, it was a great deal. In exchange for winning the fight against a vampire who is this woman's disciple, they would have the full support of the strongest female vampire. Just by having Scathacker's name in whatever plans they had, that plan would carry more weight than usual. It just goes to show how much weight that woman's name has for all vampires. But they know that there is no free lunch in this world. If this woman trusts her disciple so much, then he must be very strong. But it was hard to know. After all, it's known to everyone that Scathach has enough disciples scattered around the world. And many of them weren't so strong that they could fight 2 geniuses alone. What do you want if your disciple wins? Niklaus was faster than Victoria to speak. For him, that was a good deal, and he trusted his son, considering his son had that which no vampire had. You don't have much that is useful for my disciple and me. Oh, how about this? My disciple is allowed to come to your house at any time to use your heirs for training, and he can learn anything that is not a secret for your clan. This was a rather strange condition, even for the 2 vampires. Explain to me in more detail about your bet. As a businesswoman, Victoria wanted to be sure what she was getting into. After all, a bet with Scathach shouldn't be simple, right? Huh? Haven't I already explained? Are you stupid? She made a confused face. A vein snapped in Victoria's head. She thought she must be being cursed to find 2 people she couldn't offend on the same day. Soon, they started arguing about this matter. Victoria wanted the title of Count. Niklaus wanted to protect his title, and he also wanted the resources he could only gain from Victoria. But with Scathach's intervention, things had to change, and they didn't have many choices in this matter. After all, the bet was just too good. The support of the strongest female vampire in the world. 30 minutes later, an announcement was heard. A new player has joined the game. This was the reaction from everyone in the arena. They know it's against the rules. Soon Victor's image appeared on the screen. Victor Walker/Snow, Fulger, Scarlet. Disciple of Scathach Scarlet. Age, 21. What? All vampires were shocked. What the fuck is Walker/Snow, Fulger, Scarlet? What is his relationship to these 3 clans? Wait, he has the same last name as that woman. Disciple of Scathach? Another one, N/O/vel/B//in.C///OM. He is young. A baby. He has the same name as that woman. So their families? Is that why he is her disciple? Huh. The audience was going crazy with lots of questions, but one thing was for sure. They were curious now. Dee darling? Violet stutter. Husband? Sasha couldn't believe what she was seeing. She did this. Ruby looked very tired. Ha 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 ha. Victor was laughing a lot now. Father. Having fun. Ophis spoke. Scathach enters the VIP room. Hearing Victor chuckle, she showed a small, satisfied smile. Victor. Victor stops laughing and looks at Scathach. Go have fun, my stupid disciple. But, remember, don't lose. If you lose or demonstrate a pathetic fight to me, prepare for your punishment. Her eyes glowed blood red as she flashed a sultry smile. This time, you will spend 10 years training with me in isolation. Scathach would not allow a weak disciple. This time, you will spend 10 years training with me in isolation. Scathach would not allow a disciple of hers to be weak. The 3 wives reacted strongly to Scathach's words. Wait, mother, Ruby said. You cannot do that. Violet growled angrily. Yes, he just got out of training. Sasha agreed with Violet. I think that would be a reward for him. Pepper whispered. Lakis and Eleanor looked at Pepper. What? Pepper asked with an innocent face. Nothing, Lakis replied. Scathach ignored everyone and continued to look at Victor. Victor exhibited a small smile as he rose from the ice throne while holding Ophis like a princess and placing her where he was sitting. As he made these movements, Victor's shadow grew, and soon Kaguya stepped out of his shadow. Realizing she couldn't stay in Victor's shadow during the game, Kaguya stepped out of his shadow and walked towards Luna, Maria, and Yuki. Ophis turned her face away in confusion. Victor removes his glasses and places them beside the ice throne. He looks into Scat-Hack's eyes and displays a gentle smile. "Thank you, Scat-Hack." Scat-Hack felt a strange sensation in her heart when she heard those words. It felt warm and sweet, but it wasn't bad. "Girl, I'll be back soon. I'm going to play for a bit." He spoke in a playful voice as he had a small sadistic smile on his face. He looked like a kid who was going to leave home to play with his school friends. Although, the smile he had on his face at that moment was not the smile of someone who would play with friends. Then he turned and looked at the glass, and lightly touching the glass, the magic symbols of his white gloves began to glow blood red. And then a scene that left some people shocked happened. Victor's hand began to pass through the glass. What? Sasha, who was closest, was shocked. Slowly, Victor's entire body passed through the glass, and soon he was standing there floating outside the arena. "How is this possible?" Violet was shocked. She knew what it was, but how did he ever learn it? Did he learn that too? Ruby was surprised. "Didn't I tell you?" Scat-Hack walked towards her throne. Hearing Scat-Hack's voice, everyone looked at her. "I trained his basics." "That means he's mastered what I consider the basics of a noble vampire." Duh. She spoke with a slight smile on her face as she sat on her throne. She crossed her legs elegantly and continued, "If he couldn't do it, I would be disappointed." Duh. Everyone was speechless. They were wondering something. How high is Scat-Hack's standard? They know that this technique is basically a fusion of bat transformation abilities with the vampire's fog-walk ability. An advanced technique, and she considers it basic? Scat-Hack's disciples were wondering if this was why she always had a bored face when she taught them. Was it because they didn't meet her standard? Don't be so surprised. My foolish disciple hides more secrets. She laughed a little. After all, I personally taught him that in a fight, you should have 2 or 3 hidden cards to surprise your opponent. Just sit back and enjoy the show. Luna, who was carrying several documents while accompanying Scat-Hack, only sighed when she saw that she was forgotten. Soon she walked towards Sienna and handed all these documents to her. "Take it, Lady Sienna." Huh. Sienna was taken aback by the amount of documents she received. "What is that?" "Work." But it's my day off." Luna didn't say anything. She just walked away from Sienna and stood beside the maids. Einar and Tatsuya, who were informed that the game was changed by their respective clan leaders, looked at Victor, who was floating in midair as he descended towards the arena. "That smile, I don't like it. I no longer like Victor." Tatsuya's opinion was neutral, but internally, he didn't like that smile from Victor either. "Oh, that boy, has he mastered it?" An older vampire in the audience spoke in curiosity when he saw Victor floating. As expected of that woman's disciple, I think, Victor descended smoothly in the middle of the 2 participants. And the moment his feet touched the arena floor, the entire surface was turned to ice. Einar and Tatsuya quickly jumped. "This power!" A man in the audience was shocked. "It's from that woman's clan? Is that why he has the last name Scarlet? Is he your son or something?" "Idiot, didn't you see the other last names too?" "So who is he?" "I do not know." Shut up. Things are starting to get interesting." Victor's smile grew. A smile that showed all his sharp teeth was shown to the audience. He inhaled a little of the air around him, and when he let the air out of his lungs, Einar Horseman, his voice echoed throughout the arena. It was a heavy voice, a strong voice. "Tatsuya, let's have fun. Start." The referee spoke as if following Victor. Wasting no time, Einar ran towards Victor. He felt an instinctive desire to want to wipe that smile off Victor's face. He didn't like it. Creating a rapier with his powers, he tried to pierce Victor's face. He wanted to pierce his head and wipe that smile off his face. Die! The thrilling scene he'd been hoping for didn't happen. Covering his fingers with pure ice, Victor stopped Einar's attack with just one finger. Bong! Everyone heard the sound of 2 blades colliding. Wadash, before he could react to the scene that happened before him, he felt his face being hit by something invisible. At the same time, Victor made a move. He positioned himself with a simple martial arts pose and punched the air. Fush! A blast of air flew towards Einar. He was unable to dodge. The gust of wind hit him with violent force. Boom! An explosion happened when Einar hit the wall. Cough! Einar coughed up blood on the floor, but the attack wasn't over yet. N/O/vel/B//in.C//om. The effects of Victor's attack began to show up in Einar's body, his body slowly starting to freeze. What? The audience didn't know how to react. They just couldn't understand what just happened in front of them. Is that the power of a vampire baby? The older vampire opened his eyes in shock. He felt like he was seeing the power of a 500-year-old vampire. The only thing he was thinking now was, that monster created another little monster. Good, Scat Hack would look pleased. Mother, you overreacted. Again. Pepper could only say that she had seen this attack before, and she knows how devastating this attack is. Yes, he did it. I hope that guy is alive. Lacus. He's a vampire. He won't die that easy. I think. Ruby. Darling, Violet is a little red in the face. Lady Victoria. Hecate didn't know what to say when she saw Victoria's glare. That woman created a monster. Hecate can't help nodding her head instinctively, so she goes back to looking at the arena with curious eyes. Victor looked at Tatsuya. You use katanas, right? He flashed a small smile. Let's make things a little fairer. Tatsuya remained silent. His eyes were very serious, and he simply understood that the man in front of him shouldn't be underestimated. Victor snaps his fingers, and slowly a great sword of pure ice is created in front of him. And then he takes the great sword and places it on his shoulder as he displayed a provocative smile on his face. Now the fight is fair. The audience was speechless. Is that fair? You are carrying a sword over 2 meters long. Bullshit. Victor raises his hand, and with a provoking gesture, he says, Come. Tatsuya didn't move, and he just held his scabbard and positioned himself. Slowly, Tatsuya's image began to fade. Heh, you won't come? In that case, Victor's body began to crackle with lightning, and soon he disappeared and left only a trail of golden light behind. Tatsuya's eyes opened in shock. Wadash. Rumble. The sound of lightning hitting something was heard. Soon everyone could see Tatsuya flying towards the sky. He seemed unconscious. With a big smile on his face, Victor lifted his finger, and a sphere of fire began to be created, and slowly, this sphere started to grow. What? Am I dreaming? Someone from the audience asked in disbelief as they rubbed their eyes. What is this? What is this being? No. What is this monster? When the sphere of fire grew enough to be called a miniature sun. Burn. The sphere flew towards Tatsuya. Tatsuya! Doge now! Victoria screamed in horror. She feared for her son's safety. Hearing his mother's voice, Tatsuya's eyes opened. His eyes seemed to glow golden for a few seconds. His body was enveloped in lightning, and soon he disappeared from the sky. The fireball flew towards the dark nightingale sky and exploded, the effect of the explosion so big that all the clouds around the city were gone. For the first time in many years, everyone could see the capital sky clear without a cloud. An uncomfortable silence descended on everyone in the arena. The audience was speechless again. They didn't know how to react to what they had just seen. It was just too unbelievable. That man, no, that monster just used the 3 powers of the Count clans? Despite having lost the title of Vampire Count, Clan Fulger was still considered by the public to be a Count's family. After all, they held the title for a long time. Victoria sighed in relief when she saw her son safe. But, Scat Hack, she spoke in a low voice as her body began to shake, and, slowly, a feeling of anger rose inside her. Her eyes glowed blood red. She squeezed the chair she was sitting in so hard that the chair cracked under her strength. Scat Hack Scarlet, just what kind of monster did you create? Victoria's voice echoed throughout the silent arena, and soon, everyone could hear the wild laughter of the strongest female vampire in the world. Ha 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 ha. Father, Zvi spoke in a neutral tone. I know. I didn't expect this result either. Niklaus spoke with a serious face, very different from what he'd shown before. Hearing Scat Hack Scarlet's laugh, the man clenched his fist a little harder. He felt cheated. Now he understood why that woman was so confident. But soon his expression became serene since he remembered that even if his son lost to Victor, he wouldn't lose the Count title. He would just lose Scathach as support. That woman, did she do all this just to show off her disciples? Niklaus thought it was very unlikely. She didn't seem like that kind of woman. n/o/vel/b/jan.c//om. Niklaus looked at Victor. What kind of monster are you? His curiosity started to grow. For him, a vampire who could use 3 completely opposite powers was something quite interesting. Is he an experiment organized by the 3 clans? Are they in an alliance? Niklaus thought that an abnormal vampire like Victor couldn't be born suddenly overnight. Someone must have created him. Jessica looked at Victor and then looked at her father. He really didn't recognize him? Is he getting senile? She thought inwardly. Jessica looks at Victor again, although he has changed a lot compared to his old appearance. Violet Snow, the heiress of Clan Snow. She spent her entire growth phase in the human world, and that would obviously arouse a little curiosity from the other clans. What is Clan Snow's heiress doing in the human world? That was their curiosity at the time, and to satiate their curiosity, they sent someone to investigate, and the result disappointed most of them. Oh, so she's just obsessed with new food. That's what the older vampires thought, and they completely forgot about that subject. They would never imagine that this food would become what it is today. Victor's smile grew. Come on, get up. What are you waiting for? I know you weren't defeated by that alone. I trust you, don't disappoint me. Rumble. The sound of lightning was heard. Hearing this, Victor's smile only grew more distorted. Good. Soon Tatsuya appeared in front of Victor. His appearance was immaculate as always, but some parts of his yukata were completely destroyed. I don't know how it feels to know you trust me. He spoke in a neutral tone as he stretched his body a little. That hurt. Boom! An explosion is heard by everyone, and soon Einar appears beside Tatsuya. Motherfucker! Einar's expression was not good. Ha ha! Slap, slap. Victor started to laugh out loud as he clapped his hands. Good. That's how it has to be. If that weren't so, it wouldn't be fun. I almost died. Tatsuya muttered with a neutral expression. Tatsuya was wondering if this man had forgotten the rules. Victor looked at Tatsuya. Don't lie to me. I knew you would survive that attack. Tatsuya remained silent since he didn't want to deny or confirm Victor's words. And you? He pointed to Einar. I knew you would survive that small slap I gave. Small slap? That one. I almost died. Einar was quite annoyed. Now, let's continue. With a small thrust of his arms, Victor threw his great sword towards them both. The two quickly dodged the attack. Boom! Like a missile hitting the ground, the sword was destroyed and created a massive explosion of pure ice. Looking at this scene, Einar and Tatsuya look at each other for a few seconds and nod. They seem to have come to a common understanding. Einar pulled away from Tatsuya. His body slowly grew. His skin turned dark, and long black wings appeared behind him. Oh! Victor's smile only widened as he saw Einar step in a vampire count form. Tatsuya's body began to crackle, and gradually his body was covered in lightning, and soon he disappeared in a flash of golden light. Ha ha! Victor creates another ice great sword and defends against Tatsuya's attack. Bong! The sound of swords clashing was heard by everyone. Have you finally decided to use all your power? Tatsuya didn't answer. He didn't need to. He just concentrated on using the lightning power more. He uses his power to increase his speed, and soon he disappears in front of Victor. Suddenly, a large black thorn came out of the ground, pierced Victor's stomach, and lifted him into the air. Die! Einar threw black thorns from his wings. Ha ha ha! Despite having a massive wound in his stomach, Victor never stopped laughing. Darling/husband? Ruby, Violet, and Sasha exclaimed at the same time. Are you really vampires? That wound is nothing, watch. Scathach spoke. Victor snaps his fingers, and a large ice pillar is created that destroys the black thorn. Then he stood on top of the pillar and created an ice shield in front of him. The thorns thrown by Einar hit the ice shield and do not leave a scratch. Tisk, not wanting to give up, he continued to throw the thorns into the ice shield. Slowly, The shield began to crack, but just when Einar thought it would be destroyed, the ice shield suddenly regenerated. Fuck! Die! Die! Ha ha! Victor chuckled in amusement. He liked seeing Einar's angry expression. A few seconds passed, and a scene happened that left all the younger vampires gaping. Victor's stomach regenerated at an abnormal speed, and his clothing was also intact. It was like he went back in time, and it was in less than 7 seconds. What is this guy? They kept being surprised to see Victor's abilities. See? Scathack smiled. Sasha, Violet, and Ruby knew this, but they were still worried. Tatsuya suddenly appears behind Victor. He was floating in the air with his body covered in lightning as he positioned himself in an Iajet pose. Oh, are you going to use that technique? Victor's smile grew. Ryujin, Hakai no Sora. He unsheathed his katana at an almost invisible speed. Ruoair. Just like the last time, a blue-eyed oriental dragon with golden scales covered in lightning flew toward Victor. Ooh! The audience was excited when they saw that Eastern dragon again. And the audience wasn't the only one. Victor was too. It's so beautiful. Victor wore a satisfied smile, as if he were enjoying a piece of art. But Victor raises his hand in front of him. The magic circle on his glove starts to glow brightly. It's a shame it's so weak. He waits for the dragon to touch his hand, and a vision that all young vampires and Tatsuya won't forget happens. The dragon became a sculpture of ice. How is this possible? He froze the lightning. It makes no sense. Tatsuya was speechless. Victor clenched his fist a little, and soon the entire ice sculpture was destroyed. Then he looked at Tatsuya with his eyes glowing red. It's my turn. Tatsuya unconsciously took a step back when he saw Victor's gaze, and upon realizing what he had done, it made him very angry with himself. Me scared? Me? Unforgivable. He was very strict with himself. When you meet something you don't know, you feel scared. He suddenly heard Victor's voice beside him. He quickly turned around in an attempt to react, but it was useless, and Victor grabs Tatsuya by the neck. Apparently, you feel it too. Let go of me. Tatsuya started to struggle. He tried to cut Victor's arm, but Victor's arm was covered in pure ice, and Tatsuya's katana couldn't cut the ice from his arm. Okay, I will. Victor showed an innocent smile. While holding Tatsuya's neck, Victor rolled a little in the air and threw him towards Einar. Seeing Tatsuya flying towards him, Einar flashed a smile. He thought it was a good idea to submit Tatsuya now, but thinking that he would have to face Victor alone later, he changed his mind. He decided to help Tatsuya. He flies towards Tatsuya and catches him in the air. Stop playing around. Let's defeat this monster soon. What do you think I'm trying to do? Tatsuya spoke in a serious tone as he covered his body with lightning. The giant ice shield that Victor created melted, and Victor began to control the water towards the sky. Today's weather forecast is ice thorns. Take care of the children. He displayed an innocent smile. This fucker. Einar's eyes flashed with anger. Soon a shower of icy thorns began to fall towards the two men. Tatsuya managed to dodge the attacks using his lightning power. However, a very different situation was happening with Einar. As he didn't have much mobility in the air, he decided to use his thorns as a defense. Victor seemed to be tuning his voice. Then he spoke with an innocent smile on his face. Attention, please. We have just received information that intense lightning showers are on the way. Rumble, rumble. Sounds of thundering lightning could be heard in the sky. Motherfucker. This time, even Tatsuya insulted Victor. And as Victor spoke, an intense rain of lightning began to fall towards Tatsuya and Einar. Fuck! Lightning broke through Einar's defense and hit him. The same happened with Tatsuya. Despite having the power of lightning, Tatsuya was not immune to it. Why? Fire? The audience was speechless when they saw that wherever the lightning struck, a few seconds later, that same area caught fire, and it was quite obvious that this occurrence was unnatural. Can that monster merge his power? Someone in the audience screamed. Ha ha ha! Victor laughed a lot. He looks like he's having fun. Ruby flashed a small smile. Yeah. Sasha also displayed a small smile. Darling. Violet's eyes looked quite dangerous now. Narrowly surviving the rain of lightning and icy thorns, the two looked at Victor with an annoyed look. Good, good. Victor started clapping again with a big smile on his face, but as if by magic his smile changed to an innocent smile, and he said, "But what are you going to do with this one?" He pointed to the sky. Einar and Tatsuya, even the audience, looked up at the sky, and the first thing they saw was a giant spike of ice that could easily cover the entire arena. Fuck. The two spoke at the same time. K-Kid, do you want to destroy the arena? An older vampire in the audience yelled. The vampire knew most of the arena was safe, considering it had been equipped with various defensive enchantments created by the witches. But an attack of this magnitude will destroy these enchantments. Victor looks at the oldest vampire in the audience and flashes a small smile. Do I look like I care? The audience was speechless. Ha 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 ha. Scat Hack was having a great time. Mother, stop laughing. This is serious. If he unleashes an attack of that size, the entire arena will be destroyed. Ruby spoke. And not only that, what will happen to us? Lakis spoke. Awawawa, we're going to die. Pepper was running around while freaking out. Sienna looks at the giant ice spike that was approaching and thinks, that's my technique, huh? She didn't know how it felt to see that her mother taught her technique to someone, but one thing she was sure of, my mother created a monster just like her. Do you underestimate witch technology so much? If the arena were destroyed by such an attack, the arena wouldn't have lasted for millennia. Elizabeth said, as a princess, she was the one who came into contact with witches the most, and because of that, she knew how reliable witch technology was even though they were expensive. The sisters were silent, but inwardly they were calmer. Fuck, he really attacked. Suddenly, everyone heard the scream of someone from the audience, as they quickly looked up to the sky and saw the gigantic ice spike falling towards the arena. Pepper's face darkened, and with a speed that surprised everyone, she made a decision. I'll run away. Just as she started to run, she was caught by her shirt collar by Sasha. Again, Pepper made a strange noise. Fue? Let me go. I will run away. Calm down, it's my husband we're talking about. He wouldn't put us in danger. Sasha looks at Ruby. You as his wife should know about his personality. Ruby nodded in agreement with Sasha's words. She knew what kind of man Victor was, but she was taken aback by his sudden personality change. But when she thought more calmly, she found he hadn't changed much. Like her mother, he would always put the safety of his family first. Indeed, darling, doesn't play with our safety. Violet flashed a loving smile. She and Sasha weren't worried. Father trustworthy. Ophis spoke. Violet, Ruby, and Sasha looked at Ophis blankly. They didn't know how to feel to hear this little princess talking so confidently about Victor. Elizabeth was feeling the same feeling they were. Hey, what are we going to do? Tatsuya asked with a blank face, while looking at the spike of ice approaching the arena as he started to prepare himself. Do I look like someone who knows? Einar responded with an expressionless look as he prepared himself as well. If things got too much worse, I still have it. I won't lose so easily. My father will not accept another failure. Tatsuya covered his body with the power of lightning, and he looked towards the spike of ice with sharp eyes. I will cut it. Huh? Einar didn't believe what he heard. That's not normal ice, you know that, right? Of course I know. The strongest female vampire's powers are well known, but I doubt that man is on that woman's level. He spoke with confidence. Einar nodded in agreement with Tatsuya's words. Have you finished planning? Tatsuya and Einar felt very strange now. Was he waiting for us? That's what they thought. Good, good. Victor waved several times. Let's make things more interesting. Soon he raised his finger to the sky. A small bolt of lightning shot out of Victor's finger and flew towards the ice. What is he doing? Someone from the audience asked curiously. Even though they knew they were in danger, they didn't care that much. They know the arena is safe, and if things go too far, the referee will intervene. After all, he must protect the audience. And it's not like they can't protect themselves. They're vampires, and most of the vampires present are over 300 years old. Only a few vampires were younger than that. When the little lightning bolt touched the ice spike, the entire ice spike was covered in lightning. The image of a giant ice spike covered by lightning was seen by all. The audience was silent. Bloody hell! He's overreacting. Someone from the audience screamed, and everyone couldn't help but agree with that person. Victor exhibited a small smile and created a small ball of fire, which he threw on the ice spike. And the previous scene was repeated. Whoosh! Soon the entire ice spike was covered with the three elements. The image of a giant spike covered with lightning and fire that was the weakness of vampires was a rather intimidating sight. The referee looked up at the sky, and the eyes behind his mask seemed to glow for a moment. It's not time yet. Soon his eyes returned to normal color. He made the decision to wait. His thought was that he would step in if things got too far, but this kind of power was still acceptable by his standards. This is excessive. Even Violet was feeling it now. Ha 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 ha. Good, but that's still not enough. Scat Hacka's eyes glowed a dangerous red. She seemed to be thinking about something profound. Is that still not enough? Everyone in the VIP room had no reaction at hearing Scat Hacka's words. Mother! Ruby looked at her mother, a little worried. She knew that expression, and from her own experience, she knew that this was not a good thing. Can you cut that? Einar said as he was covered in a cold sweat. I'll try. Tatsuya didn't look very confident. Victor's smile grew unnaturally. His eyes glowed blood red, and Victor's image seemed to get distorted. And now? What are you going to do? The attack is coming. That crazy son of a bitch. Einar muttered angrily. Tatsuya nodded in agreement with Einar's words. TSK, we have no choices. Let's destroy this thing. Einar points his hand to Tatsuya. A dark power came out of Einar's hand and covered Tatsuya's body. Rumble, rumble. Tatsuya's lightning changed to black lightning. NOV. L. B / JNN. Tatsuya didn't understand what Einar did, but he felt stronger. Oh, what is this? Victor noticed it too, and knowing that his opponent got stronger made the smile on his face grow. He seemed to be enjoying it a lot. This will help protect you from the fire, and will increase your strength a little. Einar didn't explain too deeply. What is that? My power. Now get ready. Tatsuya nods and doesn't question it anymore. He understood that Einar didn't want to talk about it. In the end, he needed to use that. Niklaus's eyes sparkled a little when he saw Einar's attitude. He doesn't have a choice, Zvi responded neutrally. Either he uses it or he loses, Jessica spoke up. I will try to hold off the attack as long as possible. You must destroy it, Einar said. Okay. Tatsuya assumes the position of Ayajutsu. Rumble, rumble. The surrounding black lightning was building in power. Einar raises his hand towards the ice spike. I didn't want to use so much energy, but I don't have a choice. His eyes began to glow more intensely. Everyone in the arena feels the ground shake as if there's an earthquake. What is happening? Pepper asked. Something is coming from under the earth. Eleanor, who was more sensitive, spoke. Soon several giant thorns rose towards the sky. The thorns began to rotate and seemed to be merging. Slowly, the two powers were closing in on each other until, boom! The two attacks collided. An incredible explosion of power took place. Einar's thorn and Victor's ice spike seemed to be struggling to see what power would lose first. Einar felt the recoil of the attack. He felt his whole body damaged, but he ignored it and looked at Tatsuya. Do it? Tatsuya nodded slightly. Bang! Suddenly, everyone heard the sound of lightning hitting something, so they took their attention away from the clash of powers and looked at the arena. Soon they could see Tatsuya covered in lightning. His hair was up like he was defying gravity. His eyes were glowing gold, and the skin on his hand was completely black with tiny sparks crackling. It was like his hand was bathed in lightning. One hit, one kill. He muttered, and then he was gone. Exceeding the speed he showed before, he flew towards the ice spike. Einar seizes this chance and removes his thorns. Losing the only thing holding it back from falling, the spike of ice that Victor created began to fall again towards Tatsuya and Einar. Tatsuya at this moment appears in front of the gigantic spike. Rarest no Zengiki. This time, The speed with which he drew the katana from its scabbard was so fast that few could see what he did. A moment of silence in the arena, but that silence was broken by Victor's voice. He spoke in a solemn voice. "Ah, that was amazing." "Yes, indeed. That really was a wonderful performance." He seemed to be enjoying something as he looked at the spike he created. Crack! Suddenly everyone could hear the sound of something breaking. They quickly looked up at the sky and opened their mouths in shock. He cut that attack." Someone in the audience screamed. And, as if in sync with this man in the audience, the spike of ice began to snap in half. "Oh, they did it!" The audience was cheering excitedly. The show of power, along with Tatsuya and Einer overcoming Victor's almost invincible power, was great entertainment for everyone. But not everyone was enjoying it. The ice debris were still falling towards the arena. The arena will not be destroyed, but the damage to the city will be enormous. The referee realized this, and he wanted to intervene since he couldn't let a part of the city be destroyed. "Don't worry, old man." The referee heard Victor's voice. He heard a snapping of fingers, and soon all the ice debris created by Victor turned to water and then turned to ice again. But this time, it was just hail. Soon a small hailstorm occurred in the arena. The referee looked at Victor, and, seeing the satisfied smile on his face, the referee felt awkward. Why does he look so pleased? Why is his skin glowing? Does he look prettier? What the fuck? The referee had a lot of doubts in his head now, but before asking something, he wanted to refute something. "I'm not old. What is your age?" Victor asked. 1794. "I'm still an adult." The referee responded. "You're older than the man at the store I knew." "You're an old man." "I'm not." The referee didn't want to give up. He felt a bad feeling when he was called old. He didn't like it. "Yes, you are. But don't worry, you can still find a wife, but she won't be as pretty as my wives." A vein popped in the referee's head, but because he was wearing a mask, his face was not seen by Victor. "Are you going to continue the match?" the referee asked, changing the subject. "I wanted to, but unfortunately..." Victor looked at Einer and Tatsuya, who were on the ground, breathing deeply. They looked quite tired. "They're like this." Sigh. Victor released a long, disappointed sigh. "That's really a shame. I was having so much fun, but unfortunately they got tired." The referee remained neutral and didn't comment on this, but internally, he was thinking the same thing as Victor. The fight was a lot of fun for him, too. "I haven't lost the fight yet," Einer said. He looked quite tired, and his transformation had already been undone. Tatsuya leaned on his katana and got up too. The two looked at Victor with the intention of continuing the fight. "Oh!" Victor's eyes gleamed in admiration, and he displayed a small, satisfied smile. Then, slowly, that smile grew, and he spoke with a big, happy smile. "I like both of you." Tatsuya and Einer didn't understand. "Huh?" The audience didn't get it either. "What?" Ruby, Sasha, and Violet were freaking out. "Ha ha 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 ha." Scat Hack was laughing a lot. She somehow remembered her past. She remembers doing the same thing when she was younger. It's a unique feeling when you meet a strong warrior. Wrong. The correct word would be a rival. Although, these two boys are still far from my disciples' level, but they have talent. Mainly that boy from Clan Horseman. Scat Hack judged the two to be gifted vampires. Tatsuya has a very peculiar katana-based martial art, and he has a strange power of illusion, not to mention that he also has the powers of Clan Folger. Einer, despite being young, could already access the vampire count form and even seemed to have a lot of control over his power in this form, although he still has stamina issues. Realizing what he said, Victor corrected himself. "Oh, don't look at me like that. I like women, and I'm married too." "What?" This time it was the female vampires in the audience who screamed. A young vampire so strong and with excellent connections? It's the dream of every female vampire who doesn't have much status. Not to mention that Victor is a baby. These women's Shota instincts were screaming to eat him. This bitches. Violet's eyes weren't pretty now. Sasha and Ruby shared the same sentiment. Even Scat Hack felt a little annoyed when he heard the female vampires in the audience talking about Victor. They think they can do whatever they want with my disciple? Ha! Looks like some female vampires are going to disappear today. 5 killing intents began to leak from the VIP room towards the audience, and it made the female vampires scream in fear. Wait, 5? Father, is mine. No one knew how to react to Ophis' words except Violet. Bit dash. Kid, go grow up first. You are too young. Violet was going to insult Ophis, but realizing it was inappropriate to say that to a child, she quickly changed what she was going to say. A small vein popped in Ophis' head. Is mine. Oh. Violet's eyes glowed blood red. Elizabeth again was in disbelief when she sensed a feeling of anger coming from Ophis. She is usually so apathetic. Oh. Tatsuya and Einar sighed a little when they heard Victor's words. Although I really want to continue our fight. They were surprised to hear Victor's voice beside them. You are in no condition to fight, and I won't have fun like that. Victor brings both of his hands towards Tatsuya and Einar's forehead. See you in the future. Einar and Tatsuya. Wadash. Soon he finger-flicked their foreheads. Boom! A small explosion happened, and the two flew towards the wall completely unconscious. The referee appeared beside the two and assessed them. Then, seeing that the two were not in a position to continue, he raises his hand and says, "The winner is Victor Walker." Oh! The audience roared excitedly as they clapped their hands. A few hours later, in a meeting room, Countess Scat-Hack Scarlet, Victoria Ryder, and Count Niklaus Horseman were present. Next to them was the director of the arena. Then, what happens to our game? Victoria asked with a neutral look. My disciple won. So our reward is what I said at the previous meeting. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about my game against this old man. She pointed to Niklaus, who was a little way off. Oh, that's your problem. Scat-Hack exhibited a small smile. Victoria's face shook a little. Scat-Hack elaborated a little. From the beginning, I had made it clear. The fight that will take place against my disciple is another completely separate game. The fight against my disciple has nothing to do with your game. You're the one who didn't pay attention. So, this fight was futile? Victoria spoke. For you guys? Yes. But for my disciple? Of course not, since he can finally loosen up a bit. Victoria was feeling cheated now, but she knew Scat-Hack was right. From the start, she never said she would meddle in their game. What happened was basically her interfering in the fight between two clans, just so her disciple could let go a little. They fought for nothing. Irrational. This woman is very irrational. She just casually interfered with the fighting of other clans just for her disciple to have fun. Hateful woman. Victoria was freaking out internally, but she didn't dare say it out loud. Niklaus was thinking a little differently. Not everything was useless. My son learned from this fight. It was a shame he failed, but unlike before, this situation was not in his control. He wasn't an irrational man. He was just very strict. And they were able to discover the existence of Victor, which in itself changes a lot. Are we done? I have to go now. Enjoy the game. Scat-Hack got up and walked towards the exit. Countess Scat-Hack Scarlet. Niklaus looked at Scat-Hack. Scat-Hack turned and looked at the man. Who is that boy? Scat-Hack exhibited a small smile. He's my son-in-law. What? Victoria opened her mouth in shock. She never thought she would live long enough to hear those words from Scat-Hack's mouth. After all, she knows this woman's stories. She knows she wouldn't accept an ordinary man to be her daughter's husband. And my disciple, she laughed a little. He's a lot of things, but it's up to you to find that out, considering he'll be coming to your house in the near future. I see. Niklaus nodded. Ending the conversation, Scat-Hack soon left the room. A moment of silence fell in the room. The two clan leaders were thinking about their next move. But before that, they needed to resolve this situation. Are you going to continue the bet? No. Victoria replied after thinking for a moment. The situation has changed. She gets up and walks towards the exit. So, we decided this is a tie? Yes. It's fine by me. She spoke as soon as she opened the door and left the room. n/o/vel/b/jen.c//om. Victoria didn't give up on her ambitions. She just backed off. Victor's existence and his connection to the three great vampire clans can bring about many changes, and she doesn't want to make another rash decision like she did now. Niklaus looked at the arena director for a few seconds, but soon he got up and left the arena too. The arena director displayed a small smile as the guests left his room. "Did you send it to the king?" "Yes." A man wearing an all-black outfit with a mask on his face appeared behind the director. "Good. I wonder what his reaction was." The man smiled a little. "If I may say so." "Oh." "The king is angry. This is rare. He rarely displays emotions, even to his subordinates." "Was he angry with the fight?" "It didn't look like he was angry about the fight. Something that might annoy the king. His daughters, I think. I do not know. I'm just his eyes and ears. Soon he disappears." "I know." The man exhibited a smile. One day after the events of the game between Clan Horseman and Clan Rider, a pale-skinned woman with long white hair, wearing only a black nightgown, was sleeping in a king-size bed. N/O/vel/b/gent .c//om. The bed was completely messed up, as if several people were sleeping in it. The woman turns her body to the side and touches the bed as if looking for someone. Violet slowly opens her eyes. "Darling?" Realizing that Victor wasn't in bed, she quickly opened her eyes and sat up in bed. The first thing she heard when she sat up in bed was, Countess Scathack Scarlet surprised everyone yesterday when she introduced her new disciple Dash. Suddenly, the voice changed to that of a woman. What kind of connection does this man have with the three Dash? Tisk. She hears Ruby's annoyed voice, and soon the woman's voice is completely silenced. "They're still talking about it?" Sasha spoke in a sleepy voice. "They're going to talk about it for a long time, and it's only been a day," Ruby said. "One day is a long time. They should have forgotten already." But Sasha knew she was asking the impossible. After all, vampires wouldn't forget so easily. "Our husband caused chaos yesterday. The existence of a vampire who can use all three powers has shaken the entire vampire community. I think it's still not a good idea that he's demonstrated his capabilities." Sasha continued. "It's not like he would listen to us." Ruby rolled her eyes. "Indeed, he's surprisingly proud." Sasha grumbled a little. "Well, he's a vampire," Ruby spoke. "Although his pride is only in matters involving fights." Sasha seemed to be thinking of something. "That's true." Ruby nodded. Violet looks toward the two women. Ruby and Sasha were sitting on a spacious sofa, and just like Violet, they were just wearing a nightgown. Ruby was wearing a very comfortable and provocative red nightgown, while Sasha was wearing a white nightgown that looked quite noble and innocent. The two women were watching TV, the news channel from the vampire world. Despite being called the news channel, the entire vampire community knew that these news channels were gossip channels. As a society that has been around for a long time, they have several companies that provide entertainment for these bored vampires, and gossip channels are the most popular. Everyone wants to know what the famous are doing, right? Although some find this type of channel a waste of time, at the end of the day, they will watch these channels if they are interested in a famous figure currently being discussed. Because of this, gossip channels are quite popular in the vampire world. After the fight that took place yesterday, the channels kept talking about Victor, Scathack's new disciple, and his possible connection to the three great clans of vampire counts. The vampire world community was dying to know who this man was. They were hunting for any information about this man, but it proved quite difficult despite his efforts to get any information about him, since anything related to Scathack was deeply hidden, and no one dared to provoke the wrath of that madwoman. After all, they don't know if at any moment that woman is going to knock on their door and cause mass destruction. Suddenly, everyone hears the sound of a phone ringing. Tisk. Violet heard Sasha's annoyed voice. "Are they still calling?" Ruby asked. "Yes. I don't want to answer and hear my mom's bullshit." Sasha was quite annoyed. "I think she was surprised to find out about your relationship with Victor, especially since she wasn't informed, right? It's not like she cares either. She only cares about her image. And probably, she's just curious like all vampires, considering, in that game, Victor was using our family's last names." The two women were silent for a long time, their eyes open completely. They seemed to have discovered something. Sigh. Ruby sighed. My mom did it on purpose, right? Yes. Sasha nodded. I wonder what she's thinking. Sasha continued. She's probably just bored and she's looking for some entertainment. And shaking up the whole vampire society seemed like something she'd like to do. Sasha started to think deeply. Where is my darling? Violet finally asked. He said he was going to visit his new friends. Ruby spoke. She wasn't surprised to hear Violet's voice. She had already realized that the woman had already woken up. Violet was silent. She seemed to be thinking of something. Aren't you going to get ready? Sasha asked. Huh? Violet didn't understand. You forgot. Ruby looked at Violet with a face of disbelief. Violet puts her hand to her chin and starts to think. But in the end, she couldn't remember. She could only think about Victor's blood that she'd sucked last night. Today is that day. Sasha illuminated Violet knowingly. Oh, are you okay? I thought you would be more excited. Sasha continued, finding Violet's reaction strange. Normally, she was supposed to be screaming around excited. Did she eat something bad? I'm excited, but I also wanted to just stay in bed with my darling and drink his blood. Maybe do this and that. She lay back on the bed and grabbed the pillow and began to laugh with a perverted smile. She sniffed the pillow. Ah, darling, duh. Ruby and Sasha rolled their eyes when they saw Violet's attitude. But, actually, I think this is a good idea since we haven't had a lot of time with our husband these days. Ruby spoke after thinking about it a bit. Soon we will be returning to the human world. Our husband misses his family, and we can spend a lot of time with him. Sasha spoke. That's true. It's been 6 months since Victor arrived in this world. Our husband's mother must be worried. Ruby nodded. I have some unfinished business in the human world, too. Sasha's eyes gleamed with a dangerous glint. Don't do anything stupid. Indeed. Darling would be sad if you did something like that. Violet suddenly sat up in bed and looked at Sasha. I know. I will ask for your help when the time comes. You will help me, right? Sasha smiled. Ruby and Violet were a little shocked when they heard Sasha's words, but soon they both flashed a small smile and spoke at the same time. Of course. Victoria Ryder Mansion. A man wearing an all-black suit was walking calmly through the corridors of Victoria's mansion. Strangely, despite passing by several vampires, these vampires could not feel this man. The image of this man seemed to be blurry, and no one could feel his presence. Tick-tock. I arrived, bitches. Victor suddenly opens the door. He came to this place to visit his new friend. Who was his friend? Tatsuya Ryder, of course. After the fight, Victor felt like fighting his new friends, and because of that, he went to visit. Oh! Upon entering the room, the image of a blond man did not appear in his vision, and instead, Victoria looked at Victor with a neutral gaze. She was in the middle of changing clothes. Pale skin, slim body, B-cup breasts with little pink nipples, a small pert ass. Victoria's appearance was what you expected from a noblewoman. Victor looks Victoria up and down. Then he nods. As expected, jeans are an unfair thing sometimes. A vein pops in Victoria's head. I wonder what you mean by that. Her eyes changed to blood red. I was comparing you to my wife, Sasha. Victor was brutally honest as usual. Victoria's eyes seemed to sharpen. By Sasha, are you talking about my niece, Sasha Folgers? She wouldn't let this information go unnoticed. And she wasn't a little girl either who would scream when a man saw her naked body. As a woman of high status, she would usually order this man killed. Or she would personally kill the man who saw her naked body without permission. But that is impossible to do with this man. Who else would it be? Victor replied, and soon he lost interest in Victoria. He started walking around the room while looking around like he was looking for something, and his eyes seemed to be glowing a little red. Victoria nodded. She learned something new. So that's why he has the surname of Clan Folger. Wait, what about the other clans? Don't tell me he's married to members of the other clans? Scathack has confirmed that he is her son-in-law. So which daughter is he married to? Ruby? Lakis? Sienna? Maybe it's Pepper? What about the Snow clan? Her head was spinning too fast in an attempt to absorb the information she just learned. She even forgot to wear her clothes. Tatsuya. Tatsuya. Where are you, Doc? Victor looked like a child who was looking for his childhood friend. Victoria was speechless when she saw Victor's reaction. She was actually doubting her appearance now. Why didn't he react to me? Am I not cute? That's what she thought. As a woman, she was proud of her appearance and seeing someone so insensitive. It bothered her a little. He's gay? But that's impossible. He's married. Victoria couldn't accept the fact that she didn't attract a man's attention. It hurt her pride a little. What she didn't know was that Victor has no interest in women who don't have the quality he likes best, and he was also too loyal to his wives to try to look out for other women. Victor's eyes suddenly stop in front of a wall. I found you. Victor's smile grew unnaturally. Victor gently touched the wall, and soon, the magic circles on his glove began to glow. These symbols, as a woman who had always had hired witches around, she knew a little bit of magic, and it took only a glance to understand the incantation. Restriction? Victoria's face darkened a little when she realized that Victor was holding back in the fight with Tatsuya and Einar. Suddenly, Victor's image began to distort, and soon he was through the wall. Once again, Victoria was surprised. Monster! That was the only thing that crossed her mind, since she knows how difficult it is to do what Victor just did. And he did it so naturally, like it was too easy. Tatsuya's personal room. A man with long blonde hair was lying on a bed, and beside this man was a woman, specifically speaking, a witch. The woman had short brown hair that came to the shoulder and green eyes. She was wearing a white outfit with violet accents and a witch hat on her head. The man and woman were looking at a tall man who was standing in front of them with a big, dangerous smile on his face. So, are we going to fight? I'm in recovery. Tatsuya spoke in a cold voice. Huh? Victor laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Who do you want to kid? You are a vampire. You are already recovered. Let's fight. Seeing Victor's crazy eyes, ugh, Tatsuya moaned in frustration. He was wondering what he did with his life to draw this madman's attention to him. Let's go. Let's go. Can I at least eat? I just woke up, and I'm hungry. Victor puts a hand to his chin as if he's thinking about something very important. Haha. Hecate chuckled gently as she covered her mouth. What? Tatsuya looked at the woman. Nothing. It's just funny to see someone generally cold have so much trouble with someone. Tatsuya didn't know how to react to Hecate's words. In the end, he just sighed. Okay, you can eat, but after that we'll fight. Victor thought hard about his decision, and after very extensive consideration, he let Tatsuya eat. After all, he couldn't fight properly with hunger, and if he couldn't fight properly, Victor wouldn't have fun. Thanks. Tatsuya felt strange hearing Victor give him permission. In a ridiculously large room, Victor, Tatsuya, Victoria, and Hecate were present. Victor was sitting on an ice throne with a small smile on his face. Tatsuya was sitting in a chair some distance away, drinking a red liquid from a wine glass. He was feeling uncomfortable with Victor's gaze. Couldn't he eat in peace? NOV. L. B//JNN. Hecate was beside Victor looking at the symbols on his glove. She had a curious look on her face. Victor didn't mind the witch since, according to ScatHack, his glove spell is a pretty simple thing to do, so he wasn't worried. I'm sorry, Lady Victoria. Several vampires were kneeling towards Victoria, who was sitting on a couch. Victoria had an annoyed look on her face. She paid dearly to keep her house safe, and a random vampire managed to break into her home and enter her room without anyone knowing. Bunch of useless. I will lower their wages. She was more irritated with Victor. He just casually walked into her house like he owned the place, saw her the way she came into the world, and then completely ignored her. Hateful man. Whatever. Just don't repeat it, dash dot. Victoria would continue to lecture her subordinates, but suddenly she heard Victor's voice. Your subordinates are useless. Huh. The subordinates were surprised by Victor's sudden voice. What are you saying, kid? We are not useless. Ha ha ha. Victor smiled dangerously. His eyes glowed blood red, and then he raised his hand in a silent gesture. Shoo. Victoria's subordinates' bodies trembled, and suddenly they couldn't speak. That is, Victoria immediately understood what Victor had done. But this should be impossible. Just who is this man? She was getting tired mentally. Continuing, Victor looked at Victoria. Your subordinates are useless. I could easily get past your defenses, and I didn't even have to work very hard. That's because you're abnormal, a normal vampire. Hecate tried to defend Victoria's minions, but she stopped talking because she was surprised by Victor's attitude. Hello. Victor ignored Hecate and waved to the ceiling. The vampires on the ceiling broke out in a cold sweat when they saw Victor's gaze. Tatsuya's eyes turned cold, and he quickly rose from his chair. You have a lot of admirers. Victor chuckled playfully. Well, you're beautiful, so I think that's normal? Ha ha. Hecate. Victoria ignored Victor and quickly gave the witch the command. Yes. Hecate raises her hands, and soon several magic circles begin to appear around the mansion. Oh! Victor's eyes sparkled with curiosity. The shadows that were in the mansion quickly began to flee when they realized they had been compromised by Victor. But some were not so lucky, as the walls of Victoria's mansion began to move as if alive. TSK. Some fled. Hecate did her best to capture everyone, but she wasn't a fighting witch. Sensing the enemy's speed, Tatsuya understood that he couldn't catch them all alone, so he looked at Victor. Hey, my friend? Tatsuya felt awkward saying the word friend. Victor looked at Tatsuya with a curious look. Help me deal with these bugs? Tatsuya felt that he would regret his following words, and I will fight you as long as necessary. Heh, Victor's smile grew disproportionately. His image started to get distorted. A frightening pressure started to leave his body. Don't forget what you said, my friend. Tatsuya was already regretting what he said, and felt he said some cursed words. But it's all right. Tatsuya was quite annoyed with himself. He couldn't see that his mother was being watched. He didn't win an important game for his mother, and to make his mood even worse, he completely lost against Victor. This weakness irritated him. He had never felt so angry with himself. Let's go. Tatsuya's body was covered by lightning. Just sit still, my friend, and enjoy the show. Huh? The magic circles on Victor's gloves began to glow brightly blood red, and as he sat on his ice throne, he snapped his fingers. Cocoon, he muttered under his breath. Fwoosh. Cold air began to leave his body and spread throughout the mansion. And with supernatural speed, a cocoon of ice began to be created around the entire mansion of Victoria. This is just bullshit. Victoria couldn't help but comment when she looked out the window and saw only pure ice. Her mansion's land covered over 500 meters. It's a considerable distance. And he covered it all? You've learned? Tatsuya remembers this technique. It was the technique Einar used. It's a pretty simple technique, Victor spoke honestly. The technique was simple, and the only prerequisite you needed to use this technique was to have extremely precise control of your power. Victoria Ryder. Victoria looked at Victor, and seeing the bloodthirsty smile on his face, she felt a shiver down her spine. She felt a bit of fear. Her only current thought was, what will this monster become in the future? But as an experienced trader, she did her best not to show those emotions on her face. What? Live or dead? Victor asked a simple question, and Victoria immediately understood what he was talking about. Live? Okay. Victor lightly touches the ice throne with his finger. Victoria expected something to happen, but she felt nothing. Suddenly, she started to hear the noise of rain. She walks towards the window and is faced with a sight that shocks her very much. All the surroundings of her mansion turned into a desert of pure ice, and she immediately understood what was causing it. The rain. Raindrops, when they touched something, that something was immediately frozen and turned into ice structures. Victoria looked at Victor with a disbelieving look. Did you do this? Yeah. You wanted them alive, right? The quickest way to do this is to freeze everything. And since they are vampires, they won't die from the cold. She felt stupid for asking that question since it was obvious he was the one who did it. If it wasn't him, who would it be? But the sight in front of her only made her brain stop working for a few seconds. Honestly, this extremely precise control of his power was scary. And to make her fear even worse, he didn't even look tired. Tatsuya was feeling strange now. He didn't even have to do anything. Victor's eyes glowed blood red while he looked towards a wall. Then he said, "Done? Done?" Hecate didn't understand. Yes. They all turned into ice sculptures. Victor flashed an innocent smile that sent shivers down Hecate's spine. Oh, she can only say that. Victor looked at Victoria's subordinates and ordered in a cold tone, "Go do your job." The subordinates quickly waved, as if they were part of the army. "Yes, sir." Victoria had never seen her subordinates so scared in her life. Sigh. She was feeling tired, so she sat down on the couch again and looked at Victor, who had another small smile on his face. "He's my niece's husband?" "Huh?" Then, suddenly, she realized something. She just realized they're related. Maybe that's a good thing? After all, having a strong relative is always welcome, and he doesn't seem to be prejudiced against her like the rest of her family, although that could change in the future if he discovers her secret. But she felt that Victor wouldn't mind. He didn't seem like a man who cared about little things. Sigh. She sighed again. She just wanted to lie down on the bed and not think about anything right now. She had so many things to do, especially now that she found out her mansion was compromised. But for some reason, she didn't want to do anything today. "Mother, are you all right?" Tatsuya asked worriedly. "Yes, I'm just a little tired. I can understand you." The two looked at Victor, who was sitting on the ice throne. Noticing the look of the two, Victor looked at them. "What?" "Nothing," the two spoke. A few hours later, in the garden of Victoria's mansion. After the previous events, Victoria went off somewhere with Hecate and her new prisoners. Apparently, they were going to solve a little problem that Victor didn't bother to hear. Victor had no interest in these men or the subject of Victoria. He only helped the woman because Tatsuya said he would fight him. Kagaya, who practically stayed 24 hours, 7 days a week in Victor's shadow, was watching her master and the man called Tatsuya fighting. Normally, she and Yuki were supposed to be accompanying Victor wherever he went. But Yuki lost this time because she overslept, and Kagaya didn't bother to wake up the lazy maid. As a professional maid, it is the maid's duty to wake up before the master. If Yuki can't even meet this minimum requirement, she's not qualified to be a personal maid. Wrong, wrong. You are using the power wrong. Victor looked quite frustrated as he approached Tatsuya and pointed his finger at him. "Ah, your way of using power is very direct. You look like a horse that only knows how to run forward. Use it more flexibly." Huh. A vein popped in Tatsuya's head. "I'm not a horse." "Then fight correctly." "Fine." The two walked away again and positioned themselves a little apart from each other. The two look at each other, and in the blink of an eye, they're gone. N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. Bong! The sounds of blade colliding were heard, although the only one using a blade is Tatsuya. Victor is using his hand as a blade of ice. An intense exchange takes place, and neither of the two seems to be backing down. The pace my master improves is absurd. Kagaya couldn't help but be amazed. With just one look, Victor already had the power of a 500-year-old vampire. This is proved by the previous display of control. But the scariest thing is, he gets better faster when he's having fun. Victor doesn't seem to realize this fact. This man, too, Tatsuya, was similar to Victor. Although his pace is slower compared to my master, he is also not left behind. With just a few simple changes, Tatsuya was improving a lot too. I think reality hit him hard, Kagaya thought. The reality that he wasn't strong, and the reality of enemies watching his mother, and he can't perceive those enemies, made him furious, and he's using that fury to get better. Boom! 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 Small explosions happen when the two collide. Both were using pure martial arts. Tatsuya used his katana, and Victor used his fists, and on some occasions he used the greatsword. At some point while they were fighting, they started fighting in the air using only lightning. Ha 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 ha! That's IT! That's IT! Victor looked like he was enjoying himself. Seeing the smile on Victor's face, Tatsuya couldn't help but flash a small smile on his face. He was getting excited too. The shit! Kagaya realized that Victor's personality was transmissible like a virus. The two collide for the last time and fall to the ground at a distance from each other. Victor points his finger at Tatsuya. Rumble, rumble. The lightning around Victor seemed to have thickened, and with a huge smile on his face, he said, "Don't die, my friend, or I will descend all 7 hells and pull you back to this world." Tatsuya felt a shiver down his spine when he saw Victor's gaze and quickly realized that something big was coming. He assumed an Ayajetsu stance, as his eyes seemed to glow golden for a few seconds. Rumble, rumble. And just like Victor, the lightning around him seemed to have gotten stronger too. Crack, crack. The earth around them seemed to be being shattered by their concentration of power. "They're overreacting." Kagaya couldn't help but mutter. Suddenly, a burst of pure energy left Victor's finger and flew towards Tatsuya. Seeing the tremendous energy coming towards him, Tatsuya wasn't afraid. "I'll cut this." It was like he was making a promise to himself. His lightning seemed to be focused on his katana, and the whole katana seemed to be bathed in pure lightning. When Victor's attack was inches from colliding with Tatsuya's body, he made a move. Cut. With an Ayajetsu move, Tatsuya cuts Victor's power in half. Boom! Losing its initial strength, the power failed to maintain its form and exploded, but the radius of the explosion was so large that it made a small crater in Victoria's garden. Ha 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 ha! Victor was laughing his ass off as he watched the explosion with satisfied eyes. "Master, please don't take up the hobby of blowing things up." Kagaya couldn't help saying it in a low voice when she saw the expression Victor was making. Hecate and Victoria, who had returned from her business, suddenly appeared in the garden. "What was that noise, Dash?" "Tatsuya." She quickly ran beside her son, who was lying on the floor. "Are you okay?" "Why, yes." Hey, let's continue, Dash." "Oh." Victor appears beside Tatsuya. "Tisk, you're tired already." Victor was about to complain, but when he saw the satisfied smile on Tatsuya's face, he said, "Oh, I know that smile." He displayed a small smile, as if he understood something. "What are you talking about?" Tatsuya pretends to be innocent. "Ha ha ha ha. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. It's more fun this way." "Master, you overreacted again." Kagaya suddenly appeared at Victor's side while looking at him with a stoic look. She seemed to be silently accusing him of a crime. "Huh." Victor didn't understand. "Look around," Kagaya spoke. Victor looked around. Oh, the old garden that looked like an ice desert was now completely destroyed and had several craters scattered throughout the garden. "Well, I think it's okay. After all, Victoria has this witch." Victor pointed to Hecate. "I'm not a landscaping expert," Hecate spoke dryly. "And fixing this is going to cost me a lot of money." Victoria continued. "Can you get up?" She asked Tatsuya. "Soon. Give me a few seconds." Tatsuya was very worn out. "TSK. You have to work on your stamina. How are you going to satisfy a woman like that?" Tatsuya, Victoria, and Hecate stared at Victor with an expressionless look. "Master, this is inappropriate. But is it not true?" Victor remembers that Scat Hack always talked about it in his training, something like endurance being very important. "Well, vampire women are thirsty." Kagaya didn't say much. Lady Victoria should have more experience with this. She continued. Hecate, Kagaya, and Victor looked at Victoria. "Ha." Victoria was taken aback that the focus of the conversation shifted to her at some point. Well, Victoria remembered that she had nearly dried her husband out several times when he was alive, and even though he was a vampire, he had nearly died. "See?" Victor smiled. He didn't need Victoria's confirmation, since her own silence was a confirmation. Victoria was wondering if she was that easy to be influenced. Of course, she isn't. Usually, she sets the pace for the conversation. "It's all this man's fault." She started freaking out again and sighed. "Can we change the subject?" Tatsuya didn't want to hear about these things, especially when his mother was around. Feeling his body was better, he stood up. "Oh." Victor's eyes sparkled for a moment, but when he looked closer, he realized that Tatsuya was still tired. Realizing that he couldn't have fun again, he said, "TSK, there's no way. I'm going to visit my other friend. Send my condolences to him." Tatsuya spoke with a happy smile. He was happy that someone would suffer the same thing as him. Although he was grateful to Victor since, if not for Victor, he wouldn't have taken a step to improve, but that's something he will never say out loud. So much for pride, and so much not to provoke this crazy man. Imagine what he will do if he knows I've improved. I will not have peace in this life. Okay, I will. Come on, Kaguya. Yes, master. Kaguya entered Victor's shadow. Oh. Victor remembered something as he quickly turned around and looked at Victoria. Go visit your niece, ungrateful woman. Even though you left your clan for a reason, I don't care. Sasha has nothing to do with it. I will. Victoria, for some reason, didn't mind Victor's rude way of talking to her anymore. She didn't even get angry anymore either. Good. Victor displayed a gentle smile, very different from the smile he always had. It was a smile he only showed his wives. That smile somehow felt warm in the hearts of Hecate and Victoria. Rumble, rumble. Victor's body was covered by lightning. Victor exhibited his characteristic smile and said, I'll see you in the near future. See ya. Boom! Like a rocket soaring into the sky, Victor flew skyward at a speed that would be the envy of any user of Clan Fulgur's lightning power. Boom! When he reached a considerable height, everyone could hear a sonic boom, and soon all they could see was a golden trail flying across the sky. The three were speechless when they saw the lightning being used in this way, especially Victoria. Not even her sister could do what he did without consequences. And it looks like he could do that at any time. He sure is intense. But somehow I understand why your niece liked him. Hecate commented, her face a little red. Yes. Unconsciously, Victoria agreed. Mother? Tatsuya stared at his mother like a hawk. I mean, he's young, he's handsome, he's strong, and he has a personality that's attractive to female vampires. So it makes sense that my niece likes him. Tatsuya didn't know how it felt to hear his mother praising his enemy so openly. Getting her son's look wrong, she said, Don't worry, son. Even though you're almost 100 years old, you're still a baby. One day you will have a wife too. Somehow, Tatsuya received critical damage when he heard his mother's words. After flying a few kilometers away, Victor finally arrived in Eastern Territory, which was owned by Clan Horsemen. Why didn't he go to Clan Horseman's personal mansion in the royal capital? Well, he went to the mansion, but the mansion was empty, so he deduced that his friend had returned to his territory. I think it's here. Victor was on top of a building. It's here, master. Is this place cooler? What is happening? Victor felt the temperature of the place. The sudden change in temperature made him a little curious. After all, the north, which is the territory of Scat Hack and the royal capital, was colder than here. The territory of the east, formerly belonging to Clan Fulgur, is a milder territory that always seems to be in autumn. Oh, is this territory where there are those groups of monkeys that can be tamed? Yes. How do you know about this? Elizabeth told me when we were visiting the capital. Huh? When did you get so close to the princess? I'm not close to her. She just accompanied me on my visit to the capital because Ophis didn't want to leave with her. Oh, Kaguya understood now, suddenly starting to remember Ophis's expression a day ago. She looked like she didn't want to part with Victor. Flashback. When Victor was declared the winner of the game, he returned to the VIP room, and a small situation was happening. Ophis, we need to get back, Elizabeth spoke. No. Ophis denied it. Ophis. Elizabeth narrowed her eyes on her sister. This was no time to be spoiled. No. Ophis ran towards Victor and climbed on his shoulder. Ha ha! Victor laughed gently as he held Ophis with his arm and patted the little girl's head. Father, Victor displayed a small, satisfied smile. Girl, listen to your big sister and go home, duh. Violet had a smile on her face. She's obviously happy, and she wasn't even trying to hide it. Yes, it's time for the child to sleep. Sasha surprisingly supported Violet. Girls, Ruby was speechless. What? Will you say that you like to see her close to our husband? Sasha's eyes weren't pretty. Ruby was silent. She knew Sasha was correct. Do something. Elizabeth looked at Victor with accusing eyes. Seeing Violet's gaze, Victor looked around and even looked behind himself to see if he could find someone. Since he wasn't sure if she was talking to him, he then pointed to himself. Me? He had an innocent smile on his face. Who else? Elizabeth was about to freak out. Victor thought for a bit. To be honest, he didn't want to do anything, considering it's not like he hated Ophis' presence. But probably as a princess, she must have things to do, right? Father? He looked at Ophis, and seeing Ophis' cute face, he said, Go home. You can always visit me whenever you want. You know where I live, right? Huh. Violet, Sasha, and Ruby didn't expect to hear those words. Ophis nodded. When you feel like it, just come visit me, but for now, listen to Big Sister, okay? Ophis makes a hard face as if she wants to deny it, but when she sees Victor's gentle smile, she relents. Okay, father. Was it that easy? Why does she just listen to you? He's not even her real father. Elizabeth was freaking out internally. Victor puts Ophis down, and the little girl looks at her sister, returning. Why dash? Suddenly, a dark power covers Ophis' body, and she disappears. Fuck. She always does that. Hey, that's not a princess vocabulary. Victor chuckled. Fuck you. This is your fault. Haha. Victor just laughed and didn't care. This bitch. When Violet was going to do something, she was held up by Ruby. Don't do anything. She's finally leaving, and if you try to look for trouble now, she'll stay here longer. Oh, this was not something Violet wanted. Humph. Elizabeth turned her face and walked towards the exit of the VIP room. She looked at the royal guards. Come on, do your job this time. Yes, princess. Her noble image was completely destroyed, Pepper commented. That happens a lot when someone is dealing with Victor, Eleanor spoke. Own experience, huh? Lakis exhibited a small smile. Yes. Eleanor did not deny it. While Victor was visiting his friends, a little chaos was happening in the room where he sleeps with his wives. Not this one. Not this one. Not this one. This one looks like an old woman's dress. Will we be like this too when it's our turn? Sasha asked as she looked at Violet, who was only wearing a black bra and black panties. She was in front of the wardrobe, taking all the clothes out of it and throwing them on the bed. She seemed very indecisive about what she was going to wear. Probably, Ruby replied. Hard to say, huh? Yes. Ruby nodded. Can you help me? Violet suddenly looked at both of them. The two were speechless. But wasn't it you who didn't want our help? Are you getting senile? Sasha snapped. Whatever, just help me. Ugh. This girl is very irrational. This is nothing new. Indeed. She's been like that since she was a child. Sasha didn't feel like getting off the couch. It seemed to be swallowing her. She was too lazy. Coming to think, she's changed a lot, huh? Ruby spoke after looking at Violet. You think? Sasha raised an eyebrow at her. Violet looked like the same irrational, crazy, and stalking woman she'd known since childhood. Yes, until a few days ago, she would try to kill us for being close to our husband. Oh, that's true. Sasha nodded. We also changed. For example, you wouldn't be as comfortable talking about these things now as before, right? Ruby exhibited a small smile. Sasha smiled gently. You've changed too. Now you smile more. She remembers that Ruby used to be colder and rarely showed emotions. Oh. Ruby is surprised, but soon she flashes a gentle little smile. Indeed. Sasha felt her heart flutter a little when she saw Ruby's smile. Then she also flashes a smile. I've said it several times already, but you should show that smile more to our husband. He would love it. In the future. Ruby laughed. A moment of silence fell in the room, and the only noise the two of them could hear was Violet pulling several clothes out of the wardrobe. Yet in some strange way, this noise left the two women with a feeling of peace in their hearts. A lot happened suddenly, and we didn't have time to talk about it. Indeed. Sasha nodded. Do you intend to go home? Ruby asked. In the future. After my date with Darling. Oh. Since when do you call him Darling? Since now. Sasha laughed. And then she spoke with a serious expression. I'm tired of not showing my feelings to my darling. I feel that if I don't get closer to him, your mother will steal my darling from me. Ruby didn't know how to feel when she heard Sasha's words, but inwardly, she thought the same thing as her. That is impossible, Ruby said, or at least she wanted to believe so. Wake up to reality. They are very similar, and it attracts them, even if they don't realize it. Sasha's face darkened a little, and something happened while they were training. Didn't you see that Darling is regularly giving his blood to your mother? Ruby's and Sasha's eyes darkened. Indeed. I realize that, but one thing we can be sure of, our husband will never cheat on us. But We have to be careful with women. Mainly my mother. She never thought she would say that in her life. She also never thought that she would have to feel threatened by her own mother. It shouldn't be like that. Don't forget Ophis, Elizabeth, and Eleanor. Sasha ignored Ruby's sisters because she realized that Victor's relationship with them is more like a sibling relationship. And Victor doesn't like Sienna, Ruby's older sister. Ophis too? She is a child. She's a child now. But what about in the future? Ruby raised an eyebrow. She had completely forgotten about that. But we're missing something, Sasha added with serious eyes. What n/o/vel/b//jin .c//om. Our husband's feelings. Oh, Ruby thought that was true. After all, they were just thinking about themselves and they never thought about Victor's own feelings. Come to think of it now, they never had a proper conversation with Victor about it. Currently, he only has eyes for us. And scat hack. Ruby looks at Sasha. Because of that, she's the most dangerous, huh? Yes. Sasha wore a face of uncertainty. Although depending on our husband's tastes, these women will never get a chance to be around him. Oh. Ruby raised an eyebrow. You seem to be absolutely sure what you're talking about. Sasha looked at Ruby. Don't you see? Darling just reacts to women like Violet, Scat Hack, you, and me. What do we have in common? Ruby was thinking deeply, but she couldn't think of anything. What is Violet's most striking feature? Sasha helped a little. She's a Yandra. Oh, Ruby responded without thinking, and when she answered, she understood what Sasha was suggesting. Yandra? Sasha didn't understand. It means something close to a stalker. She was too lazy to explain. Our husband only reacts to women like that. He has problems in his head. Wait, am I like that too? Somehow she just realized it now. Wait. She started to panic. I don't remember being like this. She was a more noble and calm woman. She's not like Violet. At least that's what she believes. I wasn't like that either, Ruby muttered. We were influenced. Ruby looked at Violet with accusing eyes. It's Violet's fault, right? Sasha spoke. Indeed, it's the ritual's fault too. Thanks to the side effect of the unsuccessful ritual, we can feel each other's emotions. They faithfully believed it, but they didn't realize that this was all an illusion of their own making. They were never normal. How can a child who is raised by a woman who loves to gamble and a woman who is mad about battle be normal? Not to mention that they are vampires. Biologically, this breed feels emotions more intensely. They never had a chance to be normal. Sensing Ruby and Sasha's accusing stares, Violet stopped what she was doing and looked at the two of them. What? Why are you guys looking at me like that? She was so focused on choosing an outfit that she didn't hear the two women talking. Nothing. The two replied at the same time. Suddenly, the two heard Yuki scream. Oh yeah, I'm late. Oh, she woke up now? Ruby spoke. Yes, it's a shame our husband has already left, Sasha spoke. Since she's not doing anything, I'm going to ask her to help me. Violet had a great idea. Wait, she's not your maid, but she's from my clan, and she's my darling's maid. And if she's my darling's maid, she's my maid too. After all, everything of my darlings is mine, and everything I have is my darling's. The two were speechless with this twisted logic. Somehow, in a distorted way, that makes sense, Sasha spoke after thinking for a few seconds. Ruby nodded in agreement. Right? I will call her. Violet ran toward the bedroom exit. Wait, put on some clothes first. Oh! Violet suddenly stopped running. She looked at the bed, and seeing whatever clothes she liked, she took the clothes and put them on. Soon she left the room. She left the door open. Ruby sighed. I'll fix it. Sasha's body is covered with lightning, and as soon as she disappears, in a flash, she closes the door and lays down where she was again. I envy that ability. Ha ha ha, Sasha laughed in amusement. In a dense forest, Victor was standing on top of a gigantic tree, and beside him was Kagaya. I swear, if God exists in this world, he is trying to make a fool of me. In front of Victor was a 4-meter-tall monkey. The monkey was bathing in a waterfall, and this monkey was clearly female. Master, you have strange luck. Is this luck? Victor pointed to the monkey that was taking a bath. I think this is bad luck. Considering you had two lucky moments a few moments ago. The universe is trying to balance things out, I guess. Which lucky moments are you talking about? Nothing came to mind for Victor when he thought about it. Kaguya looked at Victor in disbelief. Master, are you serious? Yes. Sigh. She gave a very visible sigh. Then she said, don't you remember? Seeing your friend's mother and your friend's sister naked? Oh. Victor thinks for a moment and says, is that luck? For some men, it is, Kaguya commented. Victor thought Andrew, his childhood friend, would find this situation quite lucky. Whatever. Victor didn't think about it much since he had no interest in it. Kaguya exhibited a small smile when she saw that Victor didn't care for those women. Just a curiosity. What do you consider as luck? She was quite curious. I think I'm already lucky, he answered honestly. Kaguya didn't understand. After all, that wasn't the question she asked him. Victor elaborated. I mean, I have 3 wives that I love very much, a master who takes care of me in her weird way, and I have you. He smiled kindly. Oh. Kaguya turned her face away quickly. Kaguya, why don't you go fight? The monkey is in front of you. Victor looked at the monkey. I think that would be disrespectful. Attacking someone while that person is taking a shower. It's kind of right. It's not like Victor is trying to kill the monkey. He just wants to fight. Why, yes. Whatever. Why don't you look for another monkey then? I will be waiting here. Okay. Victor nodded, and soon his body was covered in lightning, and he flew into the sky. Realizing that Victor is gone, Kaguya kneels in a fetal position and puts her hand on her face. She doesn't want anyone to see her face right now. This is unfair, master. Victor was in front of an animal that looked more like a gorilla. He was a huge gorilla over 15 meters tall, muscular, had black fur and red eyes, and was sitting like he was enjoying the moonlight. Gorilla banana, gorilla. Me leader banana, gorilla. The gorilla turns his face and looks at Victor and sees him making strange gestures while pointing to the black bananas on the ground. The gorilla exhibited a strange face, and the only thing he thought was, is he a fool? Somehow the gorilla was enjoying what Victor was doing and started clapping his hands, as if to say to continue. Victor was speechless when he saw the gorilla's attitude. This isn't working. Victor gets up off the floor and pats his clothes to dust them off. How do I tame this creature? Victor's eyes sparkled. He wanted to tame this creature. He wanted his own King Kong. Uru. What? The gorilla pointed to the piles of black bananas. I'll take it. I can't eat them anyway. Victor threw a banana in the direction of the gorilla, who caught it quite easily. Victor tried to taste a banana before, but for him, it had the worst taste in the world. The gorilla looked happy. Yeah, whatever. Victor spoke as if he understood him, but the question is, does he understand? Of course not. But just like the other animals he came in contact with in the past, he could understand the creature's intentions, and the gorilla is far more intelligent than other animals, so he can understand it a little. I should have asked someone about taming a gorilla. Victor sat down on the floor and put a hand to his chin in a bored way. He was wondering what to do next. The gorilla looked at Victor, and his eyes sparkled with curiosity as he got up from the tree he was leaning against and approached Victor, then sat down next to him. Oh! Victor looked at Gorilla, who was beside him with only a pile of bananas separating the two. What's up, big guy? Do you want more bananas? n/o/vel/b/in.c//om. Uru. I see. Take as much as you want. The gorilla started eating bananas. Victor was watching the gorilla eating the food so exquisitely. Somehow he was curious. Is this really that good? Too bad he couldn't eat. Uru. The gorilla pointed to the pile of bananas when he saw Victor's gaze. He seemed to be offering it to Victor. He was a polite gorilla. Unfortunately, I can't eat, big guy. Look. Victor bared his fangs. When the gorilla saw Victor's fangs, he understood what Victor was saying, and with a sudden movement, the gorilla got up and walked towards the tree he was sitting on. He opens the hull of the tree and grabs something. Then he goes back to Victor and sits down on the ground. Suddenly, he throws a large amount of items on the ground. Oh! Victor looked at the items in curiosity. The items looked like a completely red type of fruit. What is that? He inspected the fruit. Uru. I can get it? The gorilla nodded, then went back to eating the banana Victor had brought. Victor takes the fruit. Oh, it's quite soft. It looks like jelly. Uru. Victor looked at the gorilla and saw the gorilla pointing to its mouth. Oh, do you want me to eat? Uru. Well, why not? Victor took the fruit and put it in his mouth. Suddenly the fruit seemed to burst, and a red liquid came down in Victor's mouth. It tasted delicious, like he had drunk apple juice when he was human. Unconsciously, he started to pick more fruit and put it in his mouth. Uru. The gorilla started clapping. The fruit was not as tasty as his wife's blood, but it was quite nice. Wait, if he can eat these fruits, then is this blood? Victor looked at the fruit, and then he looked at the tree. He focused his attention more on the tree, and he could see the tree was moving. What the fuck? It is alive. He quickly gets up from the ground. Uru. The gorilla started to laugh at him. Shut up. I didn't know this kind of creature existed. Okay. Uru. He started to clap his hands. Ugh. The language barrier is tough. Victor thought this was how a foreigner felt when he went to a country that didn't know the local language. But what is this? Victor examined the tree, and, just out of curiosity, he touched the tree's hull. When Victor touched the tree's hull, something happened. Slowly, the tree began to send her branches onto his hand and began to wrap around his arms. He was scared at first, but he didn't feel threatened. In fact, he feels welcome. Victor looks at the tree hull that the gorilla opened, and out of curiosity, he looks inside, and inside the tree hull, he sees several skeletons. He focused his attention on the skeletons. Fangs. What he saw was clearly a vampire skeleton, and he could also see some human skeletons mixed together. This place. He pulls back a little and looks around. This place evolved to devour beings. Victor clearly saw the result of the beings that approached this place. But why don't I feel threatened? He was feeling a strange feeling in his heart. Master. Why are you, Master? What are you doing? Suddenly, the atmosphere of the gorilla and the tree changed from peaceful to hostile. Roar! The gorilla roared towards Kagaya. Kagaya quickly covers her body with darkness and prepares to fight. The gorilla began to approach Kagaya with hostile intentions. He didn't even look like the peaceful gorilla that Victor was with, and completely changed his attitude when Kagaya appeared. Seeing that Kagaya is in danger, Victor takes a step towards her, and soon he disappears and then reappears in front of Kagaya. Kagaya, step back. Biba Master, do as I say. Victor's eyes sparkled. Okay. Kagaya was a little startled by Victor's gaze, but she quickly ran in the opposite direction. Realizing that Kagaya was safe, Victor's body relaxed a little. Victor cracks his neck and looks at the gorilla as his smile grows. Hey, big guy, let's have some fun. He didn't even try to talk to pacify the gorilla. Roar! The gorilla roared and thumped its chest in a sign of defiance. That's the spirit. A frightening pressure left Victor's body. Victor jumps towards the gorilla and attacks him. The gorilla does the same and swings his big arms as he attacks Victor. The gorilla expected Victor to fly away when he attacked him. After all, he was tiny compared to his size, right? But the reality he expected didn't happen. The two fists collide in the air. Boom! And for a moment, the sound of a crash of air was heard. And an unexpected result happened. The gorilla pulled away and fell to the ground, sitting up. Earl. The gorilla looked at Victor in disbelief. He didn't expect this result. Tisk! Victor clicked his tongue in annoyance when he saw his broken arm. If it were Scat Hack, that gorilla would have flown far. I'm still weak. In less than 7 seconds, his arm was completely regenerated, and he looked at the gorilla. Then he positioned himself again. Let's continue, Doc. Seeing Victor smile, the gorilla displayed a small smile that showed all of his fangs. Huh? I like that smile. The gorilla gets up from the ground. He had completely forgotten about Kagaya, and all that was in his head now was Victor. Bomb! Bomb! He roared at Victor as he hit his chest several times. This time, he was serious. Victor's smile grew disproportionately. Ha 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 ha. He laughed like a maniac. That's the spirit, big guy. The magic circles on Victor's glove began to glow blood red. Let's fight. Roar. The gorilla roared as if saying the same thing as Victor, and with speed disproportionate to his size, he appeared in front of Victor and punched him in the face. Wadash! Victor didn't expect this speed coming from someone so big. Boom! A sonic boom was heard, and soon Victor's body flew skyward. Ha 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 ha! Despite having some broken body parts, he laughed. He felt it. This pain. It's the same as when he was training, and it's also the sign that he was facing a strong opponent. Victor's body regenerated in midair, and soon he created an ice shelf behind him, and, using the ice shelf as support, he flew towards the gorilla. In midair, Victor's hands began to get covered by an ice glove, and like a rocket, it hits the gorilla's face. Ore! Boom! A bang was heard as Victor punched the gorilla in the face, and this time as he got momentum, the gorilla was thrown back by his strength. Then, just as the gorilla's body was going to fall to the ground, "It's not over yet, big guy." Victor appears under the gorilla and holds it. The gorilla didn't believe what he was witnessing. He was heavy, with a show of strength. HHH. Victor threw the gorilla in the air. Victor points both his palms at the gorilla. Fush, fire, and ice began to be created in front of him. HAAs. Soon this power flew towards the gorilla. Realizing the danger, the gorilla did something that only increased Victor's smile. The gorilla's body appeared to be covered in some kind of black material. Boom! The two powers collide against the gorilla's armor, and a tremendous amount of smoke is created. Roar! The gorilla roared in midair and blasted away all the smoke created by the attack. And Victor can clearly see a gorilla wearing full-length black armor. Ha 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 ha! Victor began to applaud in genuine happiness. You're the best, big guy. Master, you are an incorrigible man. Kaguya, who was watching everything from a tree at a considerable distance, couldn't help but say that when she saw Victor's smile. And to think that he would enter the forbidden forest and approach a demonic beast without knowing it, Kaguya commented as she watched Victor exchange punches with the gorilla. Ora, come on, big guy. Show me all your strength. Victor was attacking his armor several times. Where? The gorilla roared and walked away from Victor, and then, after grabbing a tree, he removed the branches from it and used the tree as a spear. Slowly the tree he held began to be covered with the same black material he was using as armor. Oh, are we going to switch to sword fighting? In that case, Victor created an ice great sword and then raised the great sword in front of him. Let's go. Victor jumped towards the gorilla and started attacking him again. Didn't he notice that the monkey looked different and much stronger than the one he had seen before? My God, my master is incorrigible. Kaguya sighed. Bong! The sound of metal on metal was heard. Ugh! The noise was too loud, and Kaguya put her hands to her ears in pain. And suddenly, boom! An explosion happened on the spot. Rocks and trees started flying around. This was just the result of the clash between the two. Keek. Ha 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 ha. A demonic gorilla and a vampire started laughing like crazy as they fought. At first, the fight was at a normal pace, but slowly, their speed began to increase. And little by little, they became images that untrained eyes could not see. Holy fuck, is this really a fight between a gorilla and a vampire? Kaguya, for the first time in a long time, spoke a bad word. She was just in total disbelief. When a normal vampire and a demonic creature fight, that kind of thing doesn't happen. And especially this gorilla. Why is he so fast? It doesn't make sense for him to have this speed at this size. Boom, 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 boom. Several explosions happened every time Victor and the gorilla collided with each other. And this fight attracted the attention of other predators. Some demonic animals that were in the vicinity began to approach, seeking the opportunity to kill them both. This is getting dangerous. I better hide. Kaguya disappeared into the shadows. A fox-like creature with horns approached Victor and tried to attack him. Roar! Fuck off! Don't get in my way! But Victor just punched the fox in the face. The punch was so hard that the fox flew far away. A similar situation happened with the gorilla when a wolf tried to bite his neck. Roar! But the gorilla just punched the wolf towards the fox. Ew! Key! The wolf and the fox wept in pain. Victor created a gigantic fireball and threw it at them both. Boom! An explosion of fire happened. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the gorilla stepped on the ground and created a thorn with the same black material and threw it at the two beasts. Pierce! Soon the sounds of fox and wolf disappeared completely. The thorn with the black material made by the gorilla has pierced the fox and the wolf. A demonic beast skewer was created. Did they plan this? Kagaya, who was watching from the shadows, asked in disbelief. Ha 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 ha. Keek 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 keek. Soon the two jumped into battle again. I do not think so. A few hours later, Victor was lying on the floor, breathing heavily. He looked quite tired, had some parts of his clothes cut off, and even had a wound that wasn't healing. Despite being in this state, he had a big smile of satisfaction on his face as he looked at the moon. Ah, tonight is a beautiful night. Next to him was a giant gorilla with several pieces of broken armor, also breathing heavily, just like Victor. I haven't been so tired in a while. Victor was honest. The only times he got tired was when fighting Scat Hack. And, just like in the fight with Scat Hack, he only needed to rest a few minutes until all his wounds regenerated, as well as his vigor. I'm thirsty. And just like in Scat Hack's fight, he always got thirsty when he was completely exhausted. Victor looked at his body and saw that his body was completely healed, but he didn't feel like getting up. The gorilla got up and sat down. Victor looked at the gorilla and saw the gestures he was making. He pointed to himself and to the large tree that was surprisingly undamaged by their struggle. Yeah, I know. I'll tell her. Victor had an idea what he was talking about. From what he could understand was something like, don't let that girl come near the tree. The gorilla got up and walked towards the tree, and every step he took made the earth around him shake, so he sat on the ground leaning against the tree trunk. He looks at the moon, then closes his eyes. He's tired, huh? Victor stands up. Well, I won't judge him. I'm also a little tired. Victor soon started walking in the opposite direction from the gorilla. Oh, I forgot something. Hey, big guy. The gorilla looked at Victor. I will be back. Victor flashed a smile. Grr. The gorilla snorted and turned away. Victor didn't understand the gorilla's reaction. But soon, the gorilla gives a thumbs up with his hand. Is he shy? This is unexpected coming from you, big guy. Roer. Yeah, I'm leaving. I'll be back later to visit you too. Victor spoke. Victor exhibited a small smile when he saw the tree swaying its branches as if it was saying goodbye to him. Walking out of the forest where he was, Victor met Kagaya. Master Dash. Before Kagaya could say anything. Are you okay? Victor spoke as he started looking at every corner of Kagaya's body. Master, I'm fine. Kagaya wasn't used to this sudden attention. Sigh. Victor sighed in relief. Master Dash. Victor placed his hand on Kagaya's head. Kagaya thought he was going to head pat her. She was looking forward to it, but the head pat didn't come. Crack. Victor squeezed Kagaya's head tightly. In my head. Kagaya screamed in pain. Kagaya. Victor spoke in an extremely serious voice. You wanted to stay, right? Did you forget about the contract? He was talking about the previous situation. Kagaya was silent. But Dash. She was going to say something, but Victor stopped her. No, but remember, don't mind me. Your safety is more important to me. I hope that doesn't happen again. Kagaya was silent, but she nodded. Good. Victor displayed a gentle smile as he started walking in front of Kagaya. Seeing Victor's back, Kagaya thought wistfully, it's hard not to care about your safety, master. Kagaya. Suddenly, Kagaya heard Victor's voice again, and soon she woke up from her thoughts. If you want to protect me, get stronger. Kagaya opened her eyes a little. Victor looked at Kagaya. But even if you get stronger, and you can protect me, I ask that you always prioritize your safety. This is a contradiction, master. Ha ha. Victor laughed gently, indeed. But that's the way I am. He started walking again in front of Kagaya. I asked her. She realized he hadn't ordered her. He just made a request, so it's up to her whether she'll follow that request or not. Rumble, rumble. Huh. It's raining? Pepper looked out the window, and as usual, the skies over the capital were cloudy, but it didn't seem to be raining. Impossible. The capital does not have rain. Lakis replied. But what about these lightning noises? Pepper asked. Must be your imagination, Lakis replied. It's not my imagination. Rumble. The lightning noise got louder. See? Pepper smiled with a victorious smile. Why are you showing that smile? Don't be a child. Pepper laughed. Rumble. Suddenly, everyone heard the noise of lightning hitting the ground. Huh, that was near here. Pepper, do you have chicken brains? Lakis asked her younger sister a genuine question. Phew. Pepper didn't understand. Lakis elaborated. Think with me. It's impossible to reign in the capital. And who is the person who has lightning powers outside the mansion now? Oh. Pepper opened her mouth. Soon everyone hears Victor's voice. Girls, I'm back. It's Victor, Pepper exclaimed. Yes. Lakis smiled. He likes an extravagant entrance, huh? Can't he arrive normally? Eleanor appeared at Sienna's side. Oh, I thought you were gone. Lakis asked. I had some matters to settle with Sienna, and I need to talk to that man. Suddenly Eleanor heard Victor's voice behind her. I have a name, duh. Eleanor jumped back, her heart beating too fast. Don't do that. It scared me. Oh. Victor exhibited a small smile. He didn't expect this reaction from her. Ugh, Victor. You reek of wild animal. Pepper put a hand to her nose. Yeah, I was fighting a gorilla in Eastern Territory. Oh, those 4-meter monkeys? Eleanor asked. Wrong, the biggest ones. Eleanor. What? Lakis. Fway. Pepper. Huh. Sienna. The 4 women thought they heard something wrong. Kagaya suddenly stepped out of Victor's shadow, the 4 women looking to the maid for answers. Yes, he fought a demonic gorilla, the one who protects that strange tree in the forbidden forest. Oh, you're crazy, Lakis said. Ha ha ha. Thanks for the compliment. Victor scratched his head, a little embarrassed. That wasn't a compliment. What was on your mind? Fighting that beast. Well, it was fun. Why not? Victor displayed a sincere smile. Why you? Sigh. You're incorrigible. Lakis gave up. And? How was the fight? Pepper looked more animated than usual. N/O/vel/b/and .c//om. I want to hear too. That gorilla is a very famous beast. Few vampires were able to fight him and survive, and those who survived had quite severe mental trauma. Sienna spoke with curiosity. She even remembers that in the past, her mother fought the gorilla, but Scathack refused to give any information to her daughters. She was very curious about this matter. Victor looked at Sienna with a strange look. What? Did you eat something bad, woman? He didn't understand why she was acting so docile with him. Wasn't she the woman who kept saying he was just cattle? A vein popped in Sienna's head. You know what? Never mind. Humph. She turned her face away and walked towards a spot. What was that thunder reaction? Did she eat something bad? Even Pepper doubted her older sister, coming out of her initial stupor. You came at a good time. I need to talk to you. Eleanor suddenly spoke, and her voice caught everyone's attention, even Sienna, who was leaving. Victor looked at the woman who was almost the same height as him with curious eyes. Eleanor puts her hand on her chest and makes a noble gesture. Victor Walker, I, Countess Eleanor Adrastea, invite you to come to my territory as a special guest. Oh, okay, I will. Eleanor and Sienna were surprised at how easily Victor accepted it. Wait, Victor, do you understand what it means to visit her territory? Sienna squealed and quickly approached Victor. I will pay a visit. Victor tilted his head as if he didn't understand the problem. Idiot, you don't understand anything. Come here. Sienna takes Victor's hand and suddenly pulls him aside. Lakis, Pepper, Kagaya, and even Eleanor looked at this situation strangely. She definitely ate something bad. Pepper nodded. Maybe she's interested in Victor now after seeing him fight those 2 heirs. The 3 women looked at Pepper, and when they saw Pepper displaying a smug face like she'd discovered a grand scheme, they just rolled their eyes. Outside the mansion, Sienna let go of Victor's hand and pulled away. Then she started talking to Victor. First, do you understand who Eleanor is? Is she a countess? Yes. And if she's a countess, She has territory. And what's wrong? The problem is that her territory is not normal. Oh, explain to me. Victor was interested. Sienna felt a little uncomfortable when she saw his smile. Do you remember the gorilla you fought? Big guy? Yes, what about him? Big guy? Huh. Sienna didn't understand, but she didn't think too much. She was slowly getting used to Victor's oddities. He's a demonic beast, and Eleanor's territory is infested with these beasts. And by inviting you as a special guest, she's basically asking you to fight with her against these beasts. Victor's smile grew. That's good news, isn't it? Fuck. I forgot about your personality. Sienna does a facepalm. Victor looked at Sienna for a few seconds. It was like he was thinking deeply about something. His eyes sparkled a little with interest, and he said, Are you hiding something? Sigh. She sighed. I can't say anything. You remember, right? I'm silenced by the magical contract. So only my mother can tell you that. Victor started to think again. I remember she spoke vaguely about it when I was playing with Eleanor's sword. Oh, but your wife Violet may know something, and she's not bound by the contract. She remembers hearing this from Violet in the past. I will ask my wife then. Victor turned and started walking towards the mansion. Will you go anyway? Sienna asked. Of course, an environment full of demonic beasts, exotic animals that I've never seen in my life. That is very welcome for me. Victor had a big smile on his face, as if he had found a new toy to play with. Of course you would. She felt like she asked a pointless question. But I won't go now. His expression suddenly changed to neutral. Oh. Sienna looked at Victor. Victor turned his face and looked at Sienna as he displayed a gentle smile. I'll go spend time with my wives first. Oh. Sienna somehow thought Ruby was very lucky to have a husband who cares for her, which is something very hard to find in the vampire community. I also want to visit my mom, dad, and my friends. I'm missing them. It's been 6 long months. I want to see my cat. For some reason, Sienna thought that the real reason Victor wanted to come back was because of the cat. Then suddenly, she realized something. You will rest? Sienna looked at Victor strangely. Is he really Victor? Where is that man who loves to fight? Is he an imposter? Of course not. I'll still fight and train, but I'll just spend time with my family. A lot has happened in a short time, and I haven't had time to appreciate these simple moments. I want to take the next step in my relationship with my wives, too. Oh, she flashed a small smile. That's a good reason. Indeed. Victor laughed. Victor went back to the mansion again along with Sienna and looked at Eleanor. Before making any decision, is this invitation just for me, or is it for my wives, too? It's for your wives, too, Eleanor spoke after thinking for a moment. I see. In this case, it's okay with me. I will also ask my wives to see if they want to go with me. Eleanor exhibited a small smile. Okay. The invitation period is 3 months. I expect good news from you. Finishing what she had to do, she walked toward the exit. When she left Scathacker's mansion, Walter and Chloe were already waiting for her. He accepted? Walter asked. Yes, but he's not going now. He will also ask his wives if they will want to go along with him. Lady Eleanor invited the wives too. Walter made a strange face. This was not what they agreed on earlier. After seeing Victor's performance in the arena, she decided that it would be advantageous to bring Victor to her territory to help her with a small problem. Eleanor initially wanted her master's help, but Scathach refused. She said it wasn't her problem. Yet because of that, Eleanor decided to ask Victor for help, especially after seeing his fight against those heirs and see how easily he dominated his opponents. She thought he would be a good help in her territory. I thought if I didn't extend the invitation to his wives, he wouldn't accept it, but it looks like I was wrong. It's too late now. I can't go back on my word. I hope they're not dead weight. It's hard to know. The 3 women are daughters of vampire counts, and they have great potential. Especially Ruby, who is my master's blood daughter. Despite looking innocent and inexperienced, Ruby hides great potential, and that was her true thoughts about Ruby. How much time did you give them to make a decision? 3 months. I think in 3 months, they will be stronger, Walter said like an old man. He understands what influences can do in a person's life, and he thinks that when girls see Victor much stronger than before, they will want to get stronger too. And in a way, he was correct. Yes, Eleanor nodded, and soon she climbed on top of Chloe. Reliant. Chloe didn't look happy. Eleanor looked at Chloe with a shocked look. Feeling her master's gaze, Chloe just turns her face to a random place. She didn't want to be ungrateful to her master, but she was very honest with her feelings. She didn't like it when Eleanor climbed on top of her, but as an ancient friend, Chloe will allow her to ride her. She doesn't seem to like you riding her, Walter commented. N/O/vel/b/jin.c//om. A vein popped in Eleanor's head. She flashed a dangerous smile. That bastard, he stole my horse. He'll pay for it. I'll look forward to the day he comes to visit my territory. When Eleanor left the mansion, a conversation was taking place with Victor and the women. Speaking of my wives, where are they? They're still in the room, Lakis replied. They're being very lazy, Pepper commented in a cute voice. Sienna, Lakis, Kagayaz, and Victor looked at Pepper with a dry look. Huey? She really didn't realize what she said. Huh? Indeed. Lakis nodded in agreement with her older sister. What's it? Spit it out. Stop talking in codes. We are shocked that you are commenting that my wives are being lazy when you are lazier than they are. Victor was honest. Pepper looked at the group again and saw them nodding in agreement with Victor's words. Okay. She made strange sounds while her cheeks puffed like a squirrel. And then she said, I'm not lazy. Initially, she was going to scream, but slowly her voice wore off, and in the end, she just mumbled under her breath since she herself had realized she was lazy. It's okay. You can be lazy. Victor chuckled a little as he patted Pepper's head. Pepper felt her body tremble when she felt Victor's caresses. She felt good. She looked at him and said, Victor. She looked like she was looking at a great ally. But don't overdo it, or your mother will kidnap you and take you to train. Pepper's body shook for a different reason now. I won't. I promise. Her eyes seemed to be glowing with motivation. She didn't want to go back to training. Her mother's training is just inhumane. Not that she was human, but even for a vampire. That training was difficult. Fear can often be a good tool. Where's Yuki? Kagaya asked in a neutral voice. Oh, she woke up a few hours ago, and when she woke up, Violet suddenly showed up and kidnapped her. So now she's helping the girls with something. Sienna replied. So, she's not being completely useless. Good? Kagaya nodded in satisfaction. Well, the conversation was good, girls. But I must go take a shower. Victor spoke. That's a good idea. You stink. Pepper put a hand to her nose. You're right. But Victor sniffed the air a little. You stink too. Pepper made a shocked face. Lakis and Sienna were speechless when they heard Victor's words. Master, Kagaya did a facepalm. This is not something to say to a girl. Pepper sniffed her body and realized that Victor was right. I will take a shower. Pepper suddenly turned around. I'll go too. Victor followed Pepper. Let's go. Pepper raised her hands up, screaming. It was like they were going on a big adventure. When Victor and Pepper disappeared from view by Kagaya, Lakis, and Sienna, the girls suddenly realized something. Did they just go together now? Lakis commented in disbelief. This is inappropriate. He's a married man. I must stop them. Sienna was freaking out, so she quickly ran towards the bathroom to stop them. They must have a little decency. Wait, I will go too. Lakis' eyes sparkled in amusement. When the two left, and Kagaya was alone, the maid said, It surprises me that my master casually went into the bathroom with Pepper, and he didn't even notice it. And being the airhead that Pepper is, she didn't notice either. Sigh. Yes, indeed. They're called many names, vampire counts, the pillars of vampire society, the king's trusted families, super vampires. They have many names that the masses give them, but they are better known as the 4 clans of vampire counts. Being only one rank below the king, they are an essential part of vampire society, and being an essential part of vampire society, they have important duties that are divided into 4 main subjects: military defense, war, economic affairs, and domestic affairs. The Adrastia clan, located in the west, is responsible for military defense. They are the king's shield. They are a strong warrior clan specializing in the art of warfare. Despite holding an important position like this, their clan is located in a very remote area, and they are very far from the royal capital. Few know why this clan is so far removed from civilization, but as part of the Four Counts, they are highly respected by the entire vampire community. The Scarlet clan is located in the north, a region with a cooler climate and an abundance of trees. Just like the clan Adrestia, Clan Scarlet lives in a very isolated area from society, and the Countess does not have a capital that she takes care of. The reason for this is Countess Scathack Scarlet herself. Possessor of the title of being the strongest female vampire, she single-handedly supports an entire vampire count clan. She doesn't need many subordinates. She doesn't need a city to manage. She just needs herself. Clan Scarlet is responsible for matters of war. If Clan Adrestia is the king's shield, Clan Scarlet is the king's spear. In cases of emergency, such as a possible enemy invasion, it is Scathack Scarlet who must assume the role of general and lead a counterattack. East of Nightingale, a milder place, and in what always seems to be autumn, there is a city that is managed by the Horseman clan. This is where products like blood crystals are created and sold to all vampires. Previously, this territory belonged to Clan Fulger, but due to Clan Fulger's recent defeat by Clan Horseman, all authority in this city has been passed to the Horseman clan. Responsible for the domestic affairs of the vampire world, the Clan Horseman is behind all the food in this world. In the south, a more tropical place with slightly warmer climates and plenty of beaches is where the Snow clan resides. Clan Snow is responsible for the economic affairs of the entire vampire world. It is they who trade/control the entire economy of the vampire world, and it is they who support small, noble families to grow. Without Clan Snow's permission, you can't do business in the vampire world, and you don't want to stand against this family. Possessing the rare power of fire control, they can burn any disobedient vampire to ashes. And they're also the only vampire clan that can walk peacefully in the sunlight. And because of that very special characteristic, they're also involved in international politics. They are the ones who trade and come into contact with other races and the vampire community who live in the world of humans when the situation is needed. After all, for vampires who live in the human world, Nightingale is heaven on earth for them. Despite having so many powers in the vampire world, vampire count clans cannot make major decisions without the direct approval of the king. Like it or not, they are servants of the king, and few dare openly challenge the king's sovereignty, the only being wrong. The only woman mad enough to do this is Scathack Scarlet. And despite openly challenging his sovereignty several times, the king does nothing. Why? Scathack Scarlet is just that important. Her knowledge, her experience, and especially her power can greatly help vampire society as a whole. And this woman was having a very interesting meeting now. In a mansion located slightly in the center of Nightingale's territory, a meeting was taking place. "Where's my son-in-law?" A woman wearing a rather noble white dress spoke. She had pale skin like all vampires, long blonde hair, and blue eyes. She looked very much like her sister Victoria Ryder. This woman's name was Anastasia Fulger, the birth mother of Sasha Fulger and former holder of the title of Vampire Count. "Bitch, what are you doing here? Why don't you go back to your husbands? Your hole must be feeling lonely right now," said a woman wearing spandex pants, a black shirt with an animal coat, and small black glasses on her face. She has long white hair and golden eyes. She is Agnes Snow, the birth mother of Violet Snow. "Oh," the woman flashed a small smile. "But if I'm going back to my husband's, I'm going to bring your husband along with me too. The poor bastard must be bored with just having you as a wife." "Bitch." Agnes' golden eyes seemed to be glowing brightly. The room around her started to get warmer. "He's so easy," Anastasia thought. She knew how to deal with Agnes. After all, this woman had a sick obsession with her husband, and if she just mentions her husband's name a few times, she'll be pissed off. The room suddenly got colder, and Agnes flashed a small smile. "Airport chest?" "Huh." A vein popped in Anastasia's head. "Isn't it? With your attractiveness, you could never conquer a man, and because of that, you have to kidnap them. After all, you don't have confidence in your own appearance." Agnes wrapped her arm around her chest like she was showing off how big she was. "Huh. At least I'm not a dairy cow who has insecurities with her relationship. Because you are afraid, right? You're afraid your precious darling will be stolen by other women. Oh, a vein popped in Agnes' head. Ha ha. Hearing a familiar chuckle, the two women looked at the woman who was sitting on an ice throne elegantly. You guys never change, huh? Scat Hack wore a mocking little smile. Humph. The two snorted and turned away. How long do you think it will take them to fight again, William? A white-haired, violet-eyed man wearing a white suit asked the man beside him. The two of them were sitting on a sofa a little way from the three women. Hard to say, considering Natasha and Agnes are like cat and dog. The man replied. He had short blonde hair and green eyes and was wearing a medieval nobleman's garb. This man's name is William Salvatore Florence. He is Anastasia's first husband, and he is also Sasha Folger's biological father. And Natasha was what he called his wife, since her name was too long. Indeed, Adonis, Violet's father, agreed. William looked at Adonis out of the corner of his eye. Has he become more beautiful? Adonis ignored William's gaze and looked at Scat Hack. She's still beautiful as ever. He flashed a gentle little smile. He felt very grateful for Scat Hack because it was this woman who saved him from a very precarious situation in the past. Darling? Agnes suddenly looks at Adonis with a dangerous look. What is it, honey? He continued to smile with the same gentle smile. Like a war veteran, he knew very well how to treat a woman, especially the crazy ones like Agnes. Agnes continued looking at Adonis for some time, seeing that his smile was going to her. She felt satisfied, but was still suspicious. Nothing. Agnes' instincts were on high alert. She knows that Adonis feels something for Scat Hack. Considering the suspension bridge effect must have been activated when he was saved by this crazy woman in the past, and because of that, she didn't let her guard down. n/o/vel/b/jen.c//om. TSK. I didn't want to bring my darling to this place. Agnes grumbled. Where's my son-in-law? Anastasia asked again. Scat Hack looked at Anastasia with a neutral gaze. Natasha, do you intend to take back your title of vampire count? Huh. Natasha didn't understand Scat Hack's question. She just wanted to know about her son-in-law. Answer my question. Natasha continued looking at Scat Hack for a few seconds. Then she replied, I'll take it back in the future. She made a confirming sound. She seemed to be thinking of something. Satisfied? Now, where is my son-in-law? Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. She saw Victor's performance in the arena, and the way he used her clan's lightning power, the way he dominated his opponent, made her very curious. Not to mention that man has the powers of the three clans. Why did my beloved daughter hide him from me? Natasha asked herself. She totally forgot about Tatsuya, her sister's son. That's something I want to know too. Who would have thought that boy would become that? Agnes' eyes were similar to Natasha's, and they were sparkling with curiosity. Initially, she had no interest in Violet's new toy, but seeing this man in action totally stunned her. A vampire who can use all three powers. And perfectly. Her curiosity was running wild. She wanted to know more about him. Scat Hack rests her head in her hand and looks at the two women with a bored face. I'm feeling this is going to end badly, Adonis muttered. William, who heard the words of Adonis internally, began to prepare himself to flee at any time from this place as quickly as possible. He didn't want to be caught in the crossfire of these crazy women. Even though one of these crazy women was his wife, he didn't want to get in the middle of a possible fight between these women. Although he is sure that in the end, Scat Hack would win the fight. It's not that he doesn't trust his wife. It's just that he can't imagine Scat Hack losing a fight. That woman is just on another level. Scat Hack held up a finger. First, he is not your son-in-law. He is mine. Only mine. Huh? Scat Hack held up a finger. First, he is not your son-in-law. He is mine. Only mine. Huh? What nonsense is this woman talking about? Has she become senile? If that man is married to our daughters, he's our son-in-law too. Adonis and William will open their mouths in shock. Did this woman just get jealous? In the eyes of the two men, Scat Hack's act of declaring her son-in-law as her own was clearly an act of jealousy. He's a lucky man. William's eyes sparkled for a few seconds when he realized that someone had managed to win Scat Hacker's affections. And it wasn't just anyone, it was a man. Adonis didn't say anything, but inwardly, he agreed with William's words. Second, he's in my house now. That should be obvious. She spoke with a face of disdain. Natasha nodded and seemed to think for a few seconds. I want permission to visit your territory. You want? Scat Hack raised her eyebrow when she heard Natasha's tone of command. She didn't like it at all, and her eyes began to slowly change to blood red. Fuck. When Natasha realized what she said, it was too late. Bloody pressure left Scat Hacker's body. Natasha's whole body felt heavy. She felt difficulty breathing. A feeling of fear covered her body. It's just she gotten stronger? She clearly remembers that she wasn't so strong back then. The same was happening with Agnes, who got caught in the crossfire. She couldn't move. You two seemed to misunderstand something. Scat Hacker's voice sent shivers down both women's spines. Crack, crack. Her pressure was so intense that the walls, furniture, and everything around it started to break. I don't give a damn if my disciple is your son-in-law. To me, you don't mean anything. I just came here because, even though I don't care about it, my disciple is married to your daughters and mine. Suddenly, the pressure coming from her body disappeared. An uncomfortable silence descended over the place. Scat Hacker's eyes returned to normal, and another shock hit the room. Why your eyes? Adonis stammered as he pointed at Scat Hack. When everyone heard Adonis' voice, they also looked into Scat Hacker's eyes, and only now did they notice that her eyes were no longer blood red like she was bloodthirsty. Scat Hack turns her face and looks at Adonis. Oh, you are here. I didn't notice. Adonis was speechless, but it wasn't because Scat Hack didn't realize his existence. That was normal for him. Instead, he was speechless because she managed to solve her bloodlust problem. And if she managed to solve her problem, that means she found someone to replace the husband she killed. He knows that Scat Hacker's male standards were very high, and her standards are so unattainable that he doubts there is a man that one day could completely satisfy the requirements to be with the strongest female vampire. How did you solve your problem? He was quite curious now. Just who is this man she married? That is none of your business, Scat Hack said. He was speechless again. Wasn't she colder than usual? Why is her mood so bad today? Darling, Agnes raised an eyebrow. Aren't you curious? He looked at Agnes and totally ignored his wife's gaze. I am, but... Agnes nodded, then added, It's none of our business. Haha, glad you understand. Scat Hack flashed a cold smile. The group won't lie and say they weren't curious, but they don't want to provoke Scat Hacker's ire for something small like this. As much as they are curious, dying of curiosity, Agnes and Natasha were a little shocked internally by something else too. Without them noticing, Scat Hack got stronger again. It's been some time since the two women met with Scat Hack, and they clearly remember she wasn't as strong as she is now. If their memory serves, the last time they spoke to Scat Hack was when Ruby was kidnapped in the past. And at the time, Ruby was 3 years old, and currently Ruby is 21, which means this monster just got stronger in just 18 years. This is impossible. The strength of an older vampire doesn't grow that fast. Something must have happened. Stopping to think, Violet also had a sudden increase in strength. Agnes' eyes sparkled a little. Maybe it's my son-in-law's fault? She unknowingly spoke aloud. Scat Hacker's smile broke, and she looked coldly at Agnes. Agnes felt uncomfortable when she saw Scat Hacker's face, and she quickly changed the subject. Scat Hack, I ask your permission to visit your house. I want to see my daughter's new husband. Scat Hacker's eyes became more neutral, and then she said, Okay, I give permission. Was it that easy? And what was that whole show a few minutes ago? Agnes was speechless. Agnes thinks for a moment, and then she understands. Oh, it's been a few years, and I've already forgotten how to treat this woman. Scat Hacker's temper was very different from what she remembered. She is calmer. Normally, she was very intense, and because of that, she forgot the basics of how to treat Scat Hack. This is something all vampires should know when encountering Scat Hack. Be humble, or you'll get your ass kicked by her. Agnes had completely forgotten about that. The same happened with Natasha. Scat Hack, can I visit my daughter and her new husband? Scat Hack looked at Natasha. Yeah, of course you can. A smile threatened to break out of Natasha's neutral face, but she held back. But before that, Luna! Scat Hack's voice echoed through the mansion. Yesh, suddenly, a white-haired Russian maid appeared. Were you sleeping? NOV. L. B / JNN. I was not. Wipe your mouth first. You're drooling. Scat Hack rolled her eyes. Luna quickly wipes her mouth and looks to Scat Hack for any order from her. Deliver the contracts to these guests. She pointed to Agnes and Natasha. Yes. Luna disappeared, and a few seconds later, she returned with several golden contracts in hand. And us? The men asked. Scat Hack just waves a hand for Luna to hand over the contract to them too. Right after that, Scat Hack totally ignored the two men since, in her view, the two men weren't worth her time. The white-haired man was only good for being handsome, and the other man had the same purpose as the first man, but unlike the first man who tries to be useful, the other is just a waste of air. And to make her mood even worse, which is bad since she knows that today is Victor's date with Violet, the two men reek of talentlessness. She spent so much time with Victor that she completely forgot that other men aren't like him. What is it? Coming out of her thoughts, Scat Hack looks at Agnes. Are you blind? Or are you illiterate? Okay, her mood isn't good today. Just what happened to her mood? It's so dark. Agnes thought. Why this contract? I just want to see my daughter's husband. Natasha spoke. Tisk. Scat Hack clicked her tongue with visible annoyance. Listen, the contract is simple. You must sign and keep all the information you learn from my disciple to yourself. And if this contract is broken, I will know. Her eyes glittered dangerously. And I will pay you a visit. Agnes' eyes flashed in annoyance. Scat Hack, are you threatening me? Yes. You're strong, but you can't fight alone. She was going to keep saying that Scat Hack couldn't fight alone with an entire clan of vampire counts, but she couldn't continue her words. Agnes! Scat Hack's voice came out in a demonic tone that left Agnes completely paralyzed. Don't make my mood worse, or I promise you, the next words you say will be your death sentence. Everyone felt a chill rising in their spines. Their bodies froze. They couldn't move. They swallowed their saliva. In front of her, they just looked like scared children. Was she that angry? They could see that she was being very serious this time, and they knew that if they teased her any further, she would do what she promised. Master! Luna felt her master go back to what she was before she met Victor. Slowly, the pressure coming off of Scat Hack's body began to fade, and as she spoke, she clearly wasn't in the mood for more bullshit today. The contract is simple. Shut the fuck up about my disciple. I don't want to hear any leaked information about him. By doing that, you can see my son-in-law. It's simple, right? She is very overprotective. That's what everyone thought. It is common knowledge that it is quite difficult to find information about the clan of Scat Hack and why. It's just that the woman herself is very overprotective with her daughters. She hides any kind of information about her daughters from the public, and the Ruby incident made her very paranoid. And everyone in this room knows she only gives her daughters that kind of treatment. After all, they signed a similar contract when their clan heirs began to bond with Ruby. They also understand that Scat Hack would not allow her daughter to marry someone useless or talentless. And when they remembered Victor's fight, they understood that he screamed potential. The curiosity of the vampires present was once again piqued. Just who is this man who managed to cause such a strong reaction in this crazy woman? They needed to know. They needed to meet this man. After a moment of silence, the group signed the contract since they were just too curious to step back now. Good. Scat Hack flashed a small, cold smile when she saw the group signing the contract.